It's literally the first thing you do. You just sing the song.
I love the song. It's a good song.
This song is fantastic. We picked this one.
Carnival Calamity or something?
I don't remember what it was, to be honest. I think Carnival Calamity is correct, yeah.
Something like that. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. This is Radio-diculous. The first episode, in fact. And this is probably...
Is it?
Well, okay, you know what? This is... okay. It's the first official episode, right?
It's the reboot of Radio-diculous.
It's the reboot of Radio. Everybody who doesn't know that, we did this one. Like, we started Radio-diculous a couple of years ago already. We did one episode and then never did it ever again. That was great.
That was amazing.
Yeah, but this is Radio-diculous, where we're gonna talk about whatever. Like, literally, like, we have topics that are so different to each other, you couldn't even think they're part of the same freaking...
It could be technology, it could be entertainment industry.
It can be literally anything. Like, of course, if there are any suggestions for future topics, leave them in the comments, leave them in this chat. It's just gonna help. Because finding topics isn't really that easy. Let's be honest.
Precisely.
Also, I didn't even introduce you. Like, first of all, my name is Simon. I'm owner of this Twitch channel, so no surprise there. But this is the one and only Max Magnus.
Hey, yo,
aka the best co-host.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel honored. Yeah, so you guys might know me if you've ever seen like any videos of Simon or like the Dark Souls streams. I'm here sometimes. Hello. Yeah,
he's here sometimes. He's actually, I think you're more often here than I am at this point. Like, why don't you take over?
Yes, I will take this Twitch channel and take all your 3 followers.
All right. So, what we have planned for today is we have a couple of topics, 6 to be precise, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna roulette which one we're gonna take, which order we're gonna go through the topics. That's pretty much what we're gonna do.
I have a roulette wheel here.
Here's a roulette. We're not gonna see it since this is a podcast. Just thought about mentioning that again because maybe some people want to see that, but sorry.
Yeah. So I'm gonna spin the wheel.
Should we read the topics first, so everybody knows?
Yeah, you know what? I think we should do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
We have they are kind of roughly written, so don't be surprised if it doesn't make sense immediately. Yeah. One of the topics is success equals more success, or does having success in one thing impact success in other things?
Or should it?
Second topic is does achieving your intention equal good? So just because you achieved what you set out to do, does that mean what you did was actually good? Specifically to like games and movies. Then we have data security, just subject as a whole, whatever we can.
Yeah, I don't even know what Max wanted me to talk about there for sure, but like he said, I want to talk about that. So
we will do it.
We will do it.
So we have 2 versus things. First of them is CGI versus practical. And equipment versus skill, and which of those affects the end product more. Yeah. And in the end, we'll have a little, or not in the end, I mean, whenever it comes, we'll have a lightning round about naming our favorite games of a given genre with a little list of genres. So, for example, our favorite racing game, our favorite jump and run, whatever.
I feel like there's going to be pretty good ones in there, to be honest. I have some pretty good ideas.
Oh, definitely.
Let's just hope we're not going to pick the same. Because I feel like we will.
we might.
Also, so I think oh, never mind. Just keep talking.
All right. I'm going to start spinning the wheel and we'll see where we land.
There we go. Start with the first topic. Oh, what's it going to be? What?
Ooh, okay. Our first topic is... Oh, God, this is loud. Achieving intention equals good? Question mark?
All right. So this is an interesting one because you picked this topic, right?
Yes, I picked this topic.
So you had something in mind. How about you start it off then and give us like an introduction? What was your thought behind it and all?
So one thing you hear often, especially when it comes to movies, sometimes video games, but I think movies and like TV shows are the most common ones, is saying, you know how when you watch a movie, sometimes the movie is like sad or has a really depressing ending or whatever, and then the thing that people will tell you is, well, that's what the movie wanted you to feel. That's what the movie set out to do. Sometimes even with a kind of trashy movie where it's like, oh, it's supposed to be trashy.
Yeah, like so the dialogue is supposed to be shit because that's kind of the staple for the series, something like that, right?
Or a movie is supposed to not really have a good story.
Yeah.
So one thing is saying, hey, that movie or that media definitely reached its intention. But does that actually mean it's good?
So should I give my thoughts on this first?
Yes, please.
I would technically say yes. If you achieve what you plan on to do, what you did it well, right? Like that's just you can't really argue with that at first, right? Like if I gonna say I build a house and I build a house, you can't say you failed to build a house because I did build a house. But I guess if you start to look at it from a comparison standpoint, if you compare it qualitatively wise to other types of the same media, right? Like a different movie, I think then you can definitely argue like what this movie brought in the grand scheme of things more than the other one, for example. Like two horror movies, both tried to be horror. One is not super scary. You can then argue, yeah, but the one that's not super scary might actually be better because, you know, more people can watch it because not as many people are going to be super afraid of it, right? Something like that, maybe. Like once you start to talk about it comparatively, you can probably argue against that what you achieve is actually good. You know what I mean?
That is kind of my point, because I mean, I'm not sure on my own opinion, which is why I wanted to discuss this. But yeah, if you say you want to build a house and you build a house, then like, sure, you build a house, but a house could be anything from like the biggest $1 billion mansion to like some shitty little thing made out of cardboard. In both cases, you've built a house. Doesn't mean one of them isn't better. So
yeah,
the movie. Why should it be so different? Saying, oh, the movie doesn't need to be good. It's made to be fun. Well, just because, you know, it isn't what the movie set out to do, doesn't that mean it could still do better?
That's for sure. And also like thinking on the other way, maybe if it didn't achieve what it wanted to do, but if it was good in something else, maybe that wasn't even like part of the intention, you know, maybe it's good in that department too. Like, does that make sense?
That's a good point. Yeah, just because a movie a movie might fail at doing a thing it wants to. So that's what you're saying. A movie might fail at doing what it wants to, but do something different. Yeah. So, for example, you might have a movie that takes itself really seriously and tries to tell a really serious and interesting story, but it turns out to be a fun like comedy or trash movie, and it's awesome as that. So yeah.
I think that's probably like that's what I mean. Like when you start looking at the thing only from an intention standpoint, you can definitely say that the movie failed what it wanted to deliver, so therefore the execution was bad, right? But like I said, if you look at it comparatively wise, and you started to compare it to other forms of movies, media, whatever, then you can definitely start to draw conclusions that are very different to what you would initially think of the movie, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can extend it to games as well. I think, for example, take Mario Odyssey, a thing we've discussed a lot recently. I wholeheartedly believe that is the game Nintendo wanted to make. I just don't think it's a good game.
I wouldn't go as far to say that it's not a good game per se, but it's definitely not as good as everybody makes it out to be.
I mean, that is true for one thing. Yeah. But generally, like, so just because you want to make something doesn't mean it's good.
One thing that I always think about when it comes to that, there was like one app in the App Store. I don't know if it's a Play Store or the iOS Store or something like that, but it was called Nothing, and it didn't do anything. You opened it up and it was just a black screen. That's what it did, and it received like 5-star reviews because everybody said like it does what it does, what it claimed to do. So therefore, 5 stars, right? And I think that's kind of like
that is a good.
That's just hammering down the point, right? Because it did what it did, right? And it did it very well, which is nothing, which is bizarre, but it did it, right? But if you compare it to other apps, especially like other free apps, because the app was free, of course, then there are other apps that gave you different things, way more than just nothing, right? So you could argue that the other apps are better because they give you nothing and even more, right?
Exactly, that's a good point. Just because you want to make something a certain way, I wouldn't say, I mean, even if you just rate it by itself, which the Play Store rating is supposed to be, it's just like, how good is this? 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Just because you rate something by itself and it does exactly what it says it does, doesn't mean it couldn't be better in a way.
Oh yeah.
Or should maybe even be completely different. Like, as weird as it sounds, some things I believe just don't even have aren't justified to exist, which is kind of my point. If you have an app that does nothing, You could say, oh, 5 stars because it does nothing and it promises to do nothing. But then I would say, I wouldn't give that 5 stars. It should do something. And therefore, an app that does nothing does not have the
right to exist?
The right to exist, exactly.
Yeah. I think I know what you mean. That's true. For like, I think, yeah, like especially like if you consider the price of something, which is also like something that you should always take into consideration when rating something, right? And there are two products, both of them are free. Let's just say the Nothing app and a different app that's free. Then there's no way on earth you can't say that the Nothing app is like better than the other app, because it does what the Nothing app does, which is nothing and more for the same price, maybe even the same file size. Who knows, right? So there's definitely ways you can rate something other than just by intent, like for sure. Goes without saying, I feel like in some way, right?
It is, I know, but it's a thing that often, especially when it comes to movies, often gets like overlooked. Oh, it's what the movie wanted you to feel. And oftentimes, I mean, I'm not saying that's generally a stupid statement. Oftentimes it is right. Yeah. There are movies that show and do horrible things and make you feel horrible things.
Yeah.
And it's the way they're supposed to be. But then there's also movies who do that, but in a bad way. Sometimes hard to explain, but like they make you feel bad, but not for the right reasons. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it, actually. Yeah. Like I said, like if you start to think about stuff like maybe the budget for the movie or what it costs to watch it or what platforms it is and stuff like that, maybe accessibility. What's the what are the people that are supposed to watch it? Like what's the, how do you call that? Peer audience?
The target audience.
Target audience, yeah, exactly. Like there's definitely ways to criticize something, right? Regardless of what it does. Is like if the movie was like, even if the movie was perfect, right, in a illogical sense, but let's just in a hypothetical world say that it could be perfect. Even if it was perfect, let's say it's $1 million to watch. Like that's a shitty product, hands down. Nobody's gonna watch that. Nobody has the money for it. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you want to see it in a practical sense, or like in a practical sense, then yeah, it always depends on whether you want to factor in what it costs to watch, because
I think it's almost necessary for any kind of product or anything to be rated.
I don't think it is necessary, because
like even if it's especially like maybe time is even a thing you have to consider in a way, right?
I would definitely not say that, because I mean time maybe. But also to a certain extent, I mean, it also depends on what you want to achieve. But for example, sometimes you do really have to compare two products that are completely different prices, or even hit different target audiences, so they can also like somewhat learn of each other. Like you can take, let's say cars, you could probably take certain aspects of a Tesla where you say, which is a really, really expensive car. Where you say, oh, this is a feature that other cars should have. And then you might say, oh, it costs a lot. But what if the feature doesn't cost a lot to implement? Just the car costs a lot. What if any car could have that for like €5 more, but the Tesla costs a lot. So you shouldn't, I still think you shouldn't be able to say, oh, well, it costs more, so of course it has it. Or the other ones cost less, so of course they don't have it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But that kind of goes in the same direction what I was saying, I think. Because if you say, like a certain product has a whatever that makes it unique, right? But it's not hard to implement or not expensive, then you can definitely take that into consideration, right? For cheaper products and for more expensive products. But then again, if the car is like if you're unable to buy this car because it's just too darn expensive, but it's a feature that should be implemented in every car, like you can still say that this car sucks just because it's super expensive, right? Not necessarily because of this feature, but just in general. Like I always think that like when it comes to products that you buy, it's almost mandatory to have the price, because otherwise there's really no indicator for who should buy the product, right? You know what I mean? Like you give suggestions and ratings upon who's supposed to buy the product. And if it's a product that's like usually supposed to be $500, because you can kind of guess the value because of competing products or different products of the same stack, whatever. But this one is like $1,000. You can say technically this product is good, but because of the price, it's just nobody can buy this, or like it's nobody is the target audience, so therefore nobody should buy it, and therefore it's bad, right? You know what I mean? You can definitely rate things in this way.
I mean,
for example, the graphics cards currently, for example, like they're technically not bad products, but for the price, they're just not worth it, and therefore nobody should buy them. Therefore, they're kind of bad. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what context you want to talk about something. Definitely, I'd say, I will never have the money to buy a Tesla, probably, or I might have, but like I won't
in the nearest future
because it's too expensive. But doesn't mean I don't think it's an amazing car. I'm just gonna go with the free flow here and talk about one other thing. I don't know. Have you seen the recent LTT video about graphic cards and their shortage? Even if this is completely off topic.
How Linus was trying to argue that he was right, even though how he was wrong.
Yeah, for one thing, he said it himself. He was right, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and he was right for like 2 weeks, and then not anymore in a way.
I mean, no, yeah, with his reasoning, but like his general principle of like buy PC. So people don't know what we're talking about. Basically, there's a huge shortage of graphic cards right now. AMD and Nvidia have recently released a new generation of their graphic cards, which are like from a technological standpoint, they're really good. They have great performance, and they would have pretty decent or relatively decent pricing, but they're extremely over expensive right now, almost 200% priced up. For the longest time, I thought it was just like bad planning on their part, not creating enough cards, like not building enough cards. So there's like, too much, not enough supply for the demand. But actually, there's just a global chip shortage right now.
And it's mostly also due to the high demands that are currently just there, because people are just at home all the time. They want to buy products. Graphics cards.
That combined with the fact that the expectations for the demand were way lower 1 year ago.
Yeah.
All companies thought, nobody's going to have money to buy anything in 2020 and 2021. And then everybody sat at home all day and had money.
Yeah. Like, what's the point you're trying to say here? Like, why did you...
I just brought that up because you thought, you mentioned it earlier.
I did. Yeah, I got it.
Cards.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I understand. By the way,
the point of this.
Red Sales said hi. How's it going? Hope you're having a blast.
Hello.
So, is there anything else you want to add to this topic, or something that we haven't talked about so far?
Not necessarily. I think we talked it out pretty well.
I think so too. I'd say go for it. Yeah, spin it to win it.
All right, we spin it to win it.
Next topic. What's it gonna be? I would add wait. I need drums.
I need to take this out.
But I don't have one right now, so I'm sorry.
That's sad. Okay, wait. I had to take the topic out so we don't get topics.
No doubles. Got it.
Oh, data security.
Data security. All right. So this was your topic, right? So far your topics. But yeah, like I said, it's your topic, so you should probably give us a little introduction to what exactly you meant with data security.
Yes, exactly. I had a discussion on an online forum recently about data security, and I wanted to know your opinion, and maybe if someone in chat cares to answer, maybe Red Nazzle HD, their opinion as well on data security, especially when it comes to things like personal assistants, like digital AI assistants, like Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant, Siri,
Google
all
Assistant,
of those things.
Yeah. So. What are your initial thoughts on this? Because
so basically my point is, why would anyone care about data security?
I think there are multiple reasons why you could care. Like why people do care, let's say it like that, because I think those are still kind of valid reasons, even though they're a little weak, a little weird. Because first of all, it's scary to know that somebody around you, or somebody you don't know, knows everything about you, right? Just the thought is very scary. That somebody can just listen to you all the time. It's just a thing that when you think about it, it's somebody just watching you 24/7 and being aware of everything you do. It just sounds scary, doesn't it?
It does. But that's where my argument comes in, that everybody who is particularly concerned for data security does not, mostly, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people who are concerned about data security do not understand enough about how data is used. That is exactly my point of being mean, I get the one thing about, manipulation and especially manipulation when it comes to like marketing, having stuff marketed specifically for you, so buy more stuff. Mm-hmm. But exactly the point you mentioned. Oh, the thought of someone close to you knowing everything you say and everything you do.
Well, not even close to you, like just somebody you don't even know, right?
Exactly, but that's kind of my point. Nobody really knows. It's not like there's someone sitting, at Amazon HQ listening to everything that goes to your AliXA, apart from the fact that, it's been proven that the thing doesn't send data unless you activate it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was just kind of easy to prove, just like analyze the Wi-Fi traffic, right? But even if it would send anything and everything, do people really think there's someone sitting on the other end of that? Like,
well, the thing is, I don't think that people necessarily expect somebody to sit there and just listen 24/7 because that wouldn't make any sense, right? But the data being stored somewhere, which is a potential thing that they could do if they wanted to. Not from a legal standpoint, of course, but from a, they can have definitely the tools to do that if they wanted to. And if the data is out there somewhere, it could technically be used against you in whatever way, right? To maybe fake your voice, to order stuff with you or something like that, right? Maybe it's gonna snag your credit card information if you talk about it near your home system, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So even though when you think about it, that it's technically that is pretty much illegal for them to do that, it's still technically possible. And if somebody, for example, would hack their servers, right? And you would get all the information, suddenly your existence hangs on a thread, right? Because they got all the information about you, they can just ruin your life, essentially.
But that is kind of my point. I have a credit card by Amazon, like an Amazon Visa.
Yeah, we have one too.
And I also have that Amazon Visa in my Google Pay account because I use Google Pay a lot in combination with that Amazon Visa. Meaning both of those companies already have my credit card information. And furthermore, that's kind of my point. If someone were to hack them, I think the last thing in the world that would happen with those hackers even having the computational ability to analyze all the voice files and everything I said in their databases and their file systems to find out my credit card information, rather than just, if it's possible, hacking into their system where my credit card information is somewhere. Because that's the point. Amazon doesn't do anything with it. Google doesn't do anything with it. They couldn't. If why would they? I'm buying at them. I mean, not at Google, but like, they already have my credit card information. Why would they? I'm a customer, yeah. They have my credit card information in their databases already. Why would they want to listen to me? What do they gain?
So, like I said, they of course not, right? But like I guess the thing is, the more you put your stuff out there, the higher the chance of it getting snagged one day. That's just like mathematics, right? The more you put out there, the higher the chance of it being seen is. I think.
Yeah, but
so I think in a way,
talking about that.
I don't hear
people talking about the big bad companies.
Yeah, but like the big the big bad companies. What are you doing here, Nintendo? Get out of here. Of course I'm joking. But like the thing is, big bad companies aren't necessarily only like the biggest players, right? Not just Google, not just Amazon, but also like other big companies that might do data breaching. It's also big companies, or like an individual person can't just hack Amazon. Like, of course not. But yeah, I understand what you're saying though. Like, of course, it's the risk is definitely super low for anything to be happening with your data. But then again, you don't know what next.
Anyone snagging it, yes.
Yeah. But and the more you put it out there, the higher the chance of it being snagged. Like if you have a home, Google Home, if you have a Google Assistant, whatever, if you have an Alexa, you maybe have a camera that keeps running in your home because you do live streams or stuff like that, right? You can just add all those on top of each other, and eventually you have like a super high risk comparatively to others. So you wouldn't want to go so far to increase your risk comparatively to others, right? Because then it might hit you.
That is a point, but like. Why? I mean, people are always. I mean, that is actually maybe a point about like data breaches, but
usually you never hear people, when talking about data security, talk about data breaches. They talk about the companies. They talk about how the company abuses your data. And my question really is, how important do people think their conversations are? I mean, not to be like an asshole, but let's say
I think
99% of conversation you have, I'm just going to say it, everyone.
Yeah.
On 95% of conversation are not relevant in like, oh, it's top secret stuff, are not relevant in even marketing. Most of the stuff I talk about is just random stuff. And most of the day I don't even talk. I'm just like silent. So for Amazon to analyze,
but here's the thing, right?
That comes through the mic. Why?
You being silent, for example, can be a pretty important thing for companies to know too, because when you're silent and there's no sound coming in, chances are you're not at home. So they can probably predict whether or not you're at home during any given time. That's something scary to think about too.
And that is a very good point. And that comes exactly to my point in how those companies actually use the data, which is like feeding algorithms.
Yeah, mostly analytical stuff.
Exactly. It's not someone sitting there and being like, oh, I'm listening exactly to what you say. No, it's feeding algorithms. It's the reason, or one of the reasons why Google's voice recognition has come so far in the last few years. A couple of years ago, like 5-6 years ago, you couldn't use voice recognition for anything without it messing up every second word.
And it's not just the recognition, it's also like them just reading the speech.
Well.
The text to speech. Yeah, exactly. It's also very good.
Yeah, and the recognition for me really is the biggest point, because now I can say full sentences and they will be perfectly grammatically correct. I mean, grammatically, of course, I speak them, but like punctually, there's like commas and points and dots, periods, sorry. And even like, what's it called? Like Eigennamen.
Oh shit, no idea, man.
Like specific words that are not general words, but like, for example, a YouTuber's name. I just said that when I wanted to look up a YouTube video on my phone with JonTron, and I did it, and it recognized JonTron as a thing.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And that's what it really is for. They, of course, like, first of all, I'm still, not under the impression, I still firmly believe that only the data that, you say after activating the thing gets sent. But even with that data, it's used for exactly those kind of stuff. Or when you're home, it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, we know when he's home, we're going to break into his home when he's not. No, it means, oh, okay, this person works this and that long. So maybe, I don't know, like give him advertisements at that time or something like that.
Yeah,
feeding algorithms.
The thing, so far I've been like on the defending side, right? Just because you asked me in the beginning, like what was the reason why people could be scary. But another thing to consider is that people that usually are so insecure about their security, pun intended, or something like that, those people usually aren't really aware of all the situations where there's such a high chance for their information to get out there. Like if you have a smartphone, if you just own one, the companies are already getting most of the information they need from you. Like, let's be honest here. Like a Google Home, a Google Home or like an Alexa isn't going to change a whole lot, because you're already carrying your phone with you that has a perfectly good microphone that's also tracking your position most of the time, if not every time.
That's a good point. I mean, people seem to forget that if you have an iPhone, it's Apple Siri, but if you have an Android phone, your entire phone or the entire operating system is made by Google. And usually with new phones, the Google Maps tracking services that like always track where you are and make like a timeline of where you went. Yeah. I think it's enabled by default.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that, off topic here, that Google Maps knows when there's a how would you call it in traffic, like
traffic jam? Yes,
traffic jams. Yeah, they only know where it is because there are so many people using Google Maps that are standing still on the road, and that's how they can predict that there's like a traffic jam, and it's most of the time right.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. But that just puts to show that just by using Google Maps, you're giving them so much information that they can just reliably predict where's traffic jams and where not, where stuff like that, right? Like how long your ride is going to take.
Exactly.
Maybe
a huge advantage,
maybe even like if people are taking just a path through the forest and they're starting to be like a path on the ground, and people start to using it more often, right? at some point Google could be like, oh, people always use the same track. Let's add a little walkway there on our map so people know that you can walk there without going through the bushes, you know? Like,
exactly. There's so many ways it can be used for positive.
And the thing is, most of the time you don't even need to use the applications for them to send information or just have any information about anything. Like, just because you don't use the camera up on your phone doesn't mean that the camera isn't being used by anything. Like, because it most likely is. That's just kind of facts. Like, you know what I mean, right? You don't need to use Google Maps in order for your position to be tracked. Like, it's being tracked 24/7. Like, if you're on a Wi-Fi, they know where you are.
If you have GPS on, I do still believe. That's also the thing. The mistrust about the options you see. Like, people saying, "Oh, I know Amazon says you can only, the assistant, the Alexa, only listens when you say the word." But I don't believe that. I believe they are actually listening all the time. And I don't believe Google is only tracking my phone when I have GPS turned on. I believe they do it when I have GPS turned off as well. If you got to a point where you say, I don't trust the companies saying what they're doing. Doing what they're saying, sorry.
Yeah. You might as well not trust anything.
You might as well, exactly. If you say, oh, I don't trust Alexa to only listen when I tell her to, then why would you trust the GPS turning off to work? Why would you trust Google not to use your camera?
Yeah.
Why would you trust any product of a big company at all? Anything that isn't open source and that you've personally inspected?
Yeah. That's actually probably the best point. Like, if you have mistrust in one thing, like one big company, you can't just have trust others for no different reason, right?
Example, you can't be like, oh, Amazon's assistant is always listening to me, but yeah, my phone with the Google operating system that has a GPS sensor, position sensor, all the sensors in the world. Yeah, no, that's fine. That data doesn't get sent.
I think a lot of the fear that comes with situations like that, where people are afraid to accept new technologies, is just because they don't understand them properly, right? When you and I talk about this, to us, this seems like second nature because we're so far into technology that we just know about this, right? But I think for people that are not so aware, it's harder for them to have the idea of what kind of situation they're currently in, right? Like, of course, when you talk about it like that your phone has so much technology in it that's already getting so much information out of you, right? If you think about it like that, of course, but most people maybe don't understand that just because, for example, you're not using the microphone app, that the microphone isn't being used, right? Like, we know that, but they might not. And that is probably one of the reasons why so new technologies can be very scary to those people, because now they have a device that does nothing but microphone. And now the emphasis is on the microphone, right? Suddenly it's like, oh my goodness, there's a microphone in my house 24/7 listening to me. It's like, not even realizing that there's a microphone in their pockets 24/7 listening to them already.
But that's the thing. People, I mean, I've talked to some people. That's kind of the whole thing why I brought the topic up, because I had a conversation recently. And it's not like the people are stupid. They do know that. But like,
I think it's mostly the emphasis. I'm telling you, like, just there's suddenly emphasis on this one thing, right? Like I said, it's just a microphone. So people getting more and more attached to these microphone images that, oh my God, there's a microphone, right? Like, it's spying on me because it's a microphone designed to spy, right? My smartphone is a microphone too, yes, but it's not designed to spy, right? Because there's so much other things in there, so it's definitely not designed to do it. But that doesn't mean that it can't do it. And I think it's kind of that's probably turning people's attention over. You know what I mean, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you just hang a camera in somebody's home, right? They'll be like, oh my goodness, somebody is spying on me 24/7 because it's constantly hanging there, right? And it seems way more scary when you think about it. There's just a camera in your home, in everyone's home, that could potentially be watching them. But it just sounds so much more scary than you have a smartphone in your pocket that does the same, right? It just sounds more scary, just from thinking about it. And I think that's what's triggering most people to think like that. Just the fact that there's one specific device to do a certain thing, right? You know what I mean? Hopefully.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, I mean, as stupid of a comparison as this is, it's kind of like saying, imagine you have a temperature sensor. I mean, probably, some people have with like electronic, what's it called? Electronic heater controls. Let's say you have a temperature sensor, just a temperature sensor by Amazon in your home. People will mistrust it. You also have a temperature sensor in your fridge. I mean, your fridge doesn't necessarily have Wi-Fi connection, but
yeah,
if if you can I think it's about justifying something. It's about saying, oh yeah, my phone has a microphone, but it needs it because it's a phone.
Yeah.
It has a camera, but it needs it. But like, oh, why would I need an ALEXA? I really do believe that voice assistants are the future in a way that I don't know how many, but like not necessarily even 100, like 20, 30 years.
But here's the thing.
Most people will have one.
If you think about it like that, I think that's actually a valid argument you just made there. Why do you need an Alexa if you carry your smartphone with you 24/7? Couldn't that just be your Alexa?
I mean, that's the thing. You can have the app on there. Yeah, it's just more convenient. It's because my phone, first of all, you have to like activate it. It drains the battery of the phone a lot
Yeah, but
faster.
that wouldn't need to be necessary. It could technically be used in standby.
I mean, you could technically, you could technically use it in exactly the same way, but like,
yeah. And I think that's more like the future than Amazon Alexa per se, because if you have a device with you anyways, if you make it like compatible enough with everything, right, you might as well just use that because it's already there.
So because people, that's the thing. You have the Google Assistant. I have the Google Assistant on my phone. I even have it on my goddamn watch that I'm wearing right now. I could press a button on my watch and turn off my lights right now.
Yeah, but you need to press a button and you need to take it out. For example, if it could just sit there in your pocket and be listening all the time. Or I guess just listening for the cue.
People usually want feedback and like having the voice come out of your pocket and having your phone charged and it also taking things. It might be, but I do believe that voice assistants in the way that ALEXA works right now, because it's also, by the way, I'm just saying ALEXA because some people might have one, have it playing on loud, or even mine.
I was wondering. I didn't want to ask. I felt stupid.
No, I got that from LTT. LTT started. Lines Tech Tips started also saying ALEXA, so you don't trigger that thing when people
makes
listen
sense.
to it.
That's actually a good idea. Yeah, I mean,
you could also call it Echo because it's called Amazon Echo, but some people might have the activation word as Echo, so
yeah, that's true.
You can change that. But yeah, I believe those things because, let's be honest, they're small, they're convenient, they don't cost a lot. I mean, of course, they don't cost a lot because the data gets analyzed. But generally, I think those things, I mean, I have 2 things of them. And I could imagine if I had like a whole house to myself and not just like was living in an apartment, I could imagine having multiple like in every room, which is also a thing. You don't always, just because your phone can do it on standby, you don't always have your phone in your pocket. Sometimes you leave it laying on your desk and then go into the kitchen. Yeah,
that's true. But also when I get up, I usually take my phone with me. I don't know. How about you?
I don't do it a lot. I mean, usually I put it down on my desk.
Oh yeah.
They also started to like make it more convenient in a way that there's now a new version of Echo, at least, where it's not even like the big dot that you like plug in with a cable. It's literally just like a power outlet pass through. So like you plug it in a power outlet and then you can plug another thing into it.
Oh, so like your usual, like your PowerLink Wi-Fi things.
Exactly like that. So it's just so convenient. And I think it also costs like $20. So
but to get back on, there was something I wanted to say on topic, but I think I forgot it.
Oh damn.
I was like, oh no. The thing is, if you consider your data to be valued so high, it makes way more sense to look out for new technologies that aren't already spying on you 24/7, right? Like when it comes to like Echo, right? It's just a microphone that's already present in your pockets 24/7. So just from a logical standpoint, the fear shouldn't really be that high. But if there's a new technology maybe at some point that has a completely different way of potentially spying on you, I would understand the fear way more than I do now. Like when I bought my camera, I was like, okay, it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, many features I can use because they're just helpful to control my camera over Wi-Fi or to get images on my phone like instantly over Bluetooth, right? And then there was like a friend of my mom was like, yeah, but like, it's gonna spy on you, and there's but like there's nothing in there that my phone doesn't have, so there's really no point in being afraid at all. I took photos with my phone the entire time. But let's just say in a hypothetical world, there was like something new in there that not everybody had around themselves yet, then I would kind of understand the fear way more. Also, like, for example, fingerprint sensors. When they were new, like, that's a whole different story. Like, you can definitely be afraid of that.
You might be, yeah. I mean, more than other things, yes. More than your voice, usually.
Yeah.
But
especially when there's like no device that you own that just gets your fingerprints from somewhere. Sure, you leave your fingerprint everywhere, but in order to get that, somebody would need to come to your place and take that fingerprint off you. Yeah, right. And this is like the first time that we've seen a device that can technically analyze your fingerprint and could potentially even duplicate it without even...
That's a good point.
Without any effort, right? So I did understand that risk or that fear for people way more than, for example, a microphone in your house.
The question is always what exactly is done with it. And I think a big question is trust. And honestly, with companies, as stupid as it sounds, I mean, I sometimes understand people's concerns when it comes to privacy government-wise. And I agree with that. For example, things like... In London, I know, I mean, many cities by now, but London was one of the first where you have like 1 million cameras in the whole city.
Yeah.
And China especially does that as well. 1 million cameras in the whole city, can track where you are, can analyze faces, put people apart from each other, know where you are. That
good
thing,
old
government-wise. Yeah, exactly. That government-wise thing, I definitely understand that. But with companies, as stupid as it sounds, I don't think companies are powerful enough to keep such a thing a secret. You know how Edward Snowden basically leaked the whole surveillance thing? Uh-huh. He was working for one of like the most secretive government agencies at the time.
Yeah.
An Amazon worker, and like he was under the threat that the government would kill him if he leaked that information. Maybe an Amazon worker that works in the IT department. If there was like such a big thing going on, it would have been leaked already. It's not like Amazon is going to send, most likely, it's not like Amazon's going to send a hitman to your house.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably the biggest reliable reason why you shouldn't be so afraid. Because what people seem to forget is that, sure, companies are technically companies, right? They're like one heuristic individual. That's just the way how they're being handled by the government, for example. But the people that are working there are still people that... with the products they put them out for themselves too. So if they develop a product, it's gonna be like super insecure, and they're gonna analyze data and stuff. Like, it's gonna happen to them too, and they wouldn't want that to happen. So I don't think anybody in the right mind would develop a feature like that just to potentially ruin his own life. You know what I mean?
I mean, not necessarily ruin their life. I believe like Jeff Bezos. I honestly don't believe Jeff Bezos probably uses an ADXA, but you can only go so far up the chain. Like, of course, maybe let's say there really is a big like secretive thing, and actually Amazon analyzes everything, even though they don't. Like, they lie and actually.
Yeah, but somebody would know. Somebody would know that.
Somebody would know. And
that's what I'm saying.
Let's say it's like the 5 highest rated people in the company, right? They would probably keep that secret. No problem.
Yeah.
But is one of those 5 actually the software engineer doing that? No, he's probably a lot more low level. And the more low level you go, the more likely people are to leak something.
Exactly. Like, the software engineers especially would probably leak that at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if not them, then maybe people that they tell about it, right? Like, oh my goodness, we had to develop this new feature. Should I tell anyone? And the person's like, no, I'm going to tell it. What the fuck? Why didn't you tell it already? And like...
yeah, I don't think company... It sounds such a weird thing, especially with, it's kind of become standard to not trust companies. And I do understand that.
I think that's definitely a good trait to have.
It is a good trait, because companies are... I'm not saying they necessarily lie, but they do definitely manipulate you, because that's how marketing works. That's how making money works.
They have to,
Exactly. But when Amazon says, oh, yeah, the thing is only listening when you activate it, and when Google says, oh, we're not using your camera all the time, for example... And like the way they say they use your data, I believe that is true, because most people don't even read the ways they use their data. It's all in the terms and conditions. You just don't read them. But it
makes sense in everything, because they're just so long, right? Nobody has the time.
They are long. That's true. That's why, I don't know if you knew, a lot of the times those terms and conditions can actually be like overruled by court. Like, let's say Apple tricks you, and in the terms and conditions it says, oh, if you don't cancel within 1 month, it'll cost $10,000. And then you might go to court and say, hey, that is so unfair. I don't want to pay $10,000. And then Apple says, well, you agreed to the terms and conditions. if the terms and conditions are written so complex and so long that you can't possibly be expected to read it, unlike in the past, people don't, or like people in the courts and judges don't assume that you read them, and companies can't rely on the fact to assume that you read them. So if it's important information, companies have to remind you apart from the terms and conditions, which is a really good thing, I think.
Yeah, it is absolutely a good thing, because let's be honest, AGBs and I don't know how they're called. I think it's just terms and conditions, whatever. Yeah. They're just
TOS, terms of service.
Yeah, exactly. They've been designed to be hard to read for a long time, so people just wouldn't read them. And nowadays,
that's true.
The court is like, if you design them like that, then people don't have to read them. That's just how we do it now.
Yeah, but it's still a good thing because it still does have all the details. It's the one place where if you want to know exactly what is being done, where it's being sold to.
Yes.
Also, another thing, if companies would lie about how they use your data, why would they write stuff in the terms and conditions even? Like in the terms and conditions of most companies, you can read, your data will be sold to third-party companies. If they were lying about how they use your data, why would they write that? Why wouldn't they just take that out as well?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But you're like, hey, we don't save your data at all. Easy.
Yeah, that's true. Also, what I think what's very interesting is that statements like, it just sounds stupid, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's bullshit, but they say, oh no, Alexa's only listening when you say the word. Like, in order for Alexa to hear when you say the word, it needs to be listening all the time. So, like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just tell the microphone to only listen when somebody says something, because in order for that to work, the microphone would be needed.
I mean,
you have to listen all the time, right?
Yeah, but the principle of the microphone is not like, technically you can't, you could turn off a microphone, but like you can't just like make there not be a microphone. There will always be a microphone there.
But that's not what I mean exactly. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, the microphone only knows when you're talking if it listens all the time, right? Yes, otherwise it wouldn't realize when you're talking.
Exactly, but that's why listening is kind of, it's like a simplification. The microphone is listening all the time, yes. What it's not doing is
processing the information.
Processing the information, exactly, because that's why you need, that's the thing, you need internet for those devices, because if you don't have internet, like saying a complex sentence like, ALEXA, set an alarm tomorrow, or remind me to take out the dog tomorrow at 8 p.m. My device couldn't compute that, especially those small $20 devices. They couldn't compute that.
They don't have nearly enough memory on there and processing power to compute that. You need an entire
voice library, and then compare the voice library to other samples and stuff like that. That device can't do that. What it can do is recognize, me saying ALEXA. That's easy. Or echo.
And then send all the following information to the server. It processes and it sends the answer back. Yeah. That's essentially what I mean with listening.
That's why it's so easy to see that it's not sending data otherwise, because voice files aren't like, they're kind of big. They're bigger than the usual like pairing request, like the peer-to-peer handshake and whatever. So you can see on Wi-Fi analyzation if data is being sent or not.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. Like, technically Alexa could compress it fairly well, but still, you would see that for sure.
You would see the difference between simple. It always like stays online and gets updates, but you would see the difference between that and voice files. The most compressed voice files. You can only compress them so far before they don't get recognized anymore, right?
Yeah, I'd say that depending on your algorithm, stuff can be very critically compressed and still be audible by a computer.
How much can that do, and that little thing do in real time?
Yeah, that's a good point. Compression usually takes a while, especially if it has to be,
and you need to do it
audible.
IRT.
Yeah. So I would say we've talked about this topic for quite a long time now. How about we go over to the next one? Because I feel like there's not a whole lot to say anymore anyways.
No, we're pretty much done. That was a good conversation. So,
definitely.
Spinning the wheel right now.
Spin the wheel.
I'm going to do out data security. Ooh, we finally got one of your topics.
What is it?
CGI versus practical.
CGI versus practical. So here's the thing, right? Yes. Because I initially said that we could do like, we argue against each other and then the audience decides whether or not this who won. But I don't think do stuff like that at this time. Right now, we just start makes a lot of sense. So definitely. We should probably just go over both of them and see what we think, right?
Yeah.
Because so the reason why I picked this at first was because I was watching Spider-Man Homecoming with Yannick together, and we both thought that the movie was great because it is. Let's be honest, it's a great movie. But then I talked about with my sister and her boyfriend about how Marvel just uses so much CGI for stuff that they really would have to. For example, we talked about this during WandaVision 2 when we watched that they usually make practical suits for everyone, especially like the Spider-Man suit that just looks absolutely fantastic when you see it on set, like him wearing it, right? But what they do is they track the actor still and replace his entire body with CGI, despite there already being like a very great looking Spider-Man on set, on camera, right? And the question that Hells asked was, what's the point of doing it all CGI, right? Doesn't it take away from the magicality that is like visual effects in general, or like movies in general, right? Isn't it kind of cheap to replace everything with CGI? And yeah, so what is your stance on this, first of all? Because I did the introduction. Go ahead. What do you think?
I believe that, honestly, it's not. So my understanding for the reasoning is that it's not necessarily. I mean, yes, I would actually say easier to work with in some places because you can do amazing costumes and amazing like masks and everything, but to get shots where the entire costume doesn't have any problems and where the facial expressions come through perfectly is really, really hard. And then again, most people. Of course, we know a lot about CGI, about computer generation, about 3D modeling, lighting, whatever. Most people don't see the difference. I bet you could tell most people that the Spider-Man Homecoming costume or Vision's face in WandaVision was real, and they wouldn't bat an eye. They don't even think it's CGI.
That is actually a perfect transition into what I was going to say next, because we also watched Queen's Gambit, which is a chess series, right?
Yes.
About chess, so it's like mostly practical, since it's only chess, right? There's only so much CGI you need there. But we watched the VFX breakdown, and there's still way more than you would have expected. Some scenes of the houses and stuff are just completely computer generated. All the snow that's on there is just completely simulated, and some of the transitions between like the camera panning through like around a house and you see inside of the windows, everything is composited in post. Like the wall didn't exist, all the rooms were just roughly 2D images that were put in there, and like some actors green screen in there. It was like a transition that lasted like 10 seconds, but it was completely fake. And I was like, if you wanted to do that practically, you would first of all need a place with this exact building shape, right? With all the windows you could go past. You would need an expansive camera arm or somebody who's like really good with drones to not get a lot of camera shake in. You would need actors for all the rooms, need to have them all to be lighted properly. Perfect conditions outside so you could actually film inside without reflections and stuff. Like that would have been such a big pain in the ass for a 10-second transition. Doing that in practical effects, holy shit. I wouldn't be the one who had to set it up. Like, holy damn.
and that's exactly the point. Most people don't notice CGI.
Yeah.
But even the ones that don't notice all CGI. Me and you, we definitely notice when like Vision is kind of off in WandaVision, or like Spider-Man Homecoming, his suit looks a little too CGI.
Yeah, it does.
But usually, even in movies where you wouldn't even expect any CGI, there'll be like a building in the background. There'll be a reflection somewhere. Anything. Yeah. And it'll be CGI, and I would never, ever have known. If it's not characters and close-up shots of things, I believe that CGI is at a point where it is indistinguishable from real life.
For the most part, it's just logical that it is, because it uses real-life calculations of physics to light the scenes and stuff. So
I mean, yeah, but that still, with some things like Spider-Man's suit, it still doesn't work. I see it and I know, oh yeah, that's CGI.
Yeah,
but building in the background,
but the thing is, it's only because of the way they implemented the materials and stuff. Because if you look at a suit like the one from The Amazing Spider-Man, it looks 100% real. You wouldn't even be able to guess that.
The Amazing Spider-Man. I think the Amazing Spider-Man suit is too rubbery.
That's what you're saying, but if you think about the suit that you're wearing, that has to like stretch and like if you're moving fast and stuff, it would probably look more like that than the one from Homecoming, right?
I mean, that's true.
Like Homecoming is kind of overly perfect. Like that just looks bizarre.
You know which suit looks absolutely sweet?
Which one?
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suits, because that shit is not CGI. That shit is practical.
You're right. That's not CGI. It looks fantastic.
It looks the best, I think.
Yeah, but I think the biggest defender for pro CGI is just like doing something practical takes a lot of time to not only find locations or build the sets or have people that like the scene and stuff, right? Like it takes so much time, so much money, and most of the time it's just way more practical to do something CGI. More practical to do CGI. Like for example, the scene from Queen's Gambit I just mentioned, right? Like doing that practically would have been possible. I'm not denying that, but it would have been such a big hassle that it's just way easier to have like two people that build this small transition, right? It's only there for 10 seconds, so it doesn't even have to be perfect. And you can probably do it in one day if you're like good, right? So it's like one day of like two people doing some VFX CGI work compared to 10 actors, people that like the scene, drone flying, cameraman, and you know what I mean, right? Yeah. Like that's just not a comparison at all. And also,
I know what you mean, definitely.
And also for sure, like when you do stuff that couldn't exist in real life, like gigantic robots, Transformers, right? Avengers, there's so much supernatural stuff that you need CGI. I mean, you wouldn't technically need it. There's definitely ways to do it practical, but...
Yeah, but you know what? That shit sucks. I saw a movie recently with Nova and her family. It was called Archive, and it's basically about this dude being in... He's like an engineer dude, and he's in a remote like facility, kind of like Aperture Science-y stuff, but like more Black Mesa. And it's all like he's alone, and he has like robots. He built robots, and one of them is like, it's really boxy. It's definitely like robot shaped. It's not humanoid. It has two legs, two arms, but it's so robot-y looking. And it was done practical. And you know how I could tell? Because it looked absolutely shit. It didn't walk like a robot at all. It wiggled to the sides. It looked terrible. So
how old is the movie though? That's the question.
It's from 2020.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yes.
Okay, I gotta look at that scene later after this podcast. Holy shit.
It's absolutely... Wait, I'm gonna open it in tab so I remember.
I think it's more... you know what I think? That with practical effects like that just are very hard to do in real life, people are more forgiving when it comes to older movies, because in old movies, first of all, CGI wasn't really a thing. And you kind of expect old movies to look weird in some places. So, like Jurassic Park, for example, like there was some great practical dinosaurs.
Oh, definitely.
But from nowadays standards, this is what you said. They just moves very robotic sometimes. The scale is off a lot, like sometimes. They don't interact as much as you would expect them to. Like, you can forgive it for that because it's an old movie. But if you would have really put more effort into that with CGI, it could have looked so much better, right?
Definitely. I think
so much more believable, realistic.
I think the best thing you can do is like a very, I mean, what most people do as well, but I think a good mix, of course. You need a good mix of things. But I think moving more towards practical is a good idea. I mean, look at Marvel movies and how they're filmed. I don't know if you've seen much behind the scenes. Usually everything, the entire environment, CGI. Everything is green screen.
There's usually like maybe one wall or so that's real and everything else is a green screen.
Exactly. But if you, for example, look at the thing, you remember the Quicksilver scene from X-Men Days of Future Past, where he like in the kitchen, where he runs on the walls and everything?
Yeah,
the whole
for sure.
wall run thing, that was practical. He was actually running a wall, but his legs were CGI. Like they were overridden with CGI. But he was actually like pulled up with rigs and, you know, ran on a wall. Same with like most of the stunts in the movie, like Doctor Strange. He got thrown from big places, of course, with like safety nets and him being pulled up on strings and everything. But those are because those movements, those body movements, are things that you can't do realistically. So it's a healthy balance. And one thing I wanted to mention that I do really like the mix of is using CGI in like as an intermediary. See the Mandalorian. how they had this huge LED wall.
Yeah, that's completely in real time, displays all the environments.
Exactly.
But it's
so
like,
what is that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is that CGI? Because it exists physically.
I think the way they call it is just a virtual set, right? They still describe it as like a set, but it's virtually generated. So
the best thing you can do is take real things, like take practical effects, because in some ways practical effects will always be the best, especially when it comes to reflections, little details.
Yeah.
Take practical effects, but make the use of them easier. Like you said with Queen's Gambit, it could have been possible, but it would have been hard. It would have been really hard. So still make it physical, but make it easier to make it physical.
Yeah. I think that's a good approach. Like especially when there's like stuff that you can easily do practically. Like there, you shouldn't probably do it in CGI. Like for example, like the best example is probably the Spider-Man suit. They had one that looked perfectly there. There was no reason for them to replace it except for bridging the difference between the scenes that were completely CGI and the ones that were practical, right? So it doesn't look any different from each other. So they decided to make the practical scenes look worse by just so everything looks has the same standard, right?
I mean, I understand that approach, definitely. I
do understand too, but I think most people would agree that if you can do it practically and it's already pretty much set to be done, then why do it in CGI then?
Yeah. I gotta say, I really didn't like some of the movements in Spider-Man Homecoming. Not the suit itself, but some of the movements looked so rubbery. He looked like he was made of rubber in some scenes.
You mean Homecoming or like Amazing Spider-Man?
Homecoming.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, right? You've probably seen behind the scenes footages where he actually scaled like a pillar of sorts, like a wall, and it looked so great when they filmed it, but then they just replaced it with CGI. It's bizarre, right? Like, I mean, it's probably just for consistency. That's probably the entire reason behind it.
I mean, Marvel movies play it safe. They are. You can say a lot of things about them, but you can't call them not consistent. They are like the most consistent thing in the world.
Except for Black Panther. That's like the one exception.
Oh my god, Black Panther sucks so much.
But it's mostly in the end though. It's mostly in the end though.
Yeah, it's just that one end scene. But that one end scene fucks it up so much.
It looked absolutely horrible.
Who looked at that and thought, yeah, good job, CGI department. Especially when you look at stuff like Avengers and the CGI characters, especially in a movie that has real characters, are hard to pull off. But look at a character like Thanos. That looks so well animated, so well modeled and everything, that it doesn't feel like a CGI character. It just feels like a character.
Yeah.
It feels like that dude, like a giant 10-foot tall dude, purple dude, was on set. And that's the thing you got to respect them doing and knowing how to do. But Black Panther, I don't know how they did that.
I have no idea. It looks like they made it in Unity, but not Unity what it is right now, but like 2010 Unity, you know?
Unity, but they turned to shading off.
Oh yeah, like that, maybe. Why not? But like, I think what the best approach might actually be in most situations when it comes to CGI versus practical is to use VFX, but that aren't necessarily CGI. Like for example, instead of building a scene on your computer, like completely doing your models, textures, shading, whatever, you can just take a video of a scene or like an object you want, and then just composite it in, right?
Yes.
So as a background, for example, compositing is definitely like that's definitely like probably the best of both worlds, because you're using real life assets, right? So it's not computer generated, but you're still using modern video manipulation techniques to make it look better, or more like the way you want it to look.
Definitely.
So that's kind of weird, right? Because I always say that I'm working and I'm trying to learn visual effects more, but I actually have no idea how to use CGI properly. But still, the stuff I do, it's just cool looking VFX, I would say, right? It just looks cool.
I mean, you're right.
And most of it, exactly. Most of it is like a mixture of practical filmmaking and some 2D and 3D compositing, right? So there's barely any CGI. I think the Queen's Gambit ceiling effect is probably the first time I ever really used straight up CGI for something, because I completely generated this chessboard on the ceiling from scratch.
Yeah,
right?
That is.
But the thing is, I tried to do it practical before by filming a stop motion scene from my chessboard and then trying to composite it on the ceiling, but it didn't quite work from the perspective and I couldn't really match it perfectly. I was like, shit, let's just do it CGI.
It's just easier sometimes.
It's just easier. There's way more preparation for practical or like visual effects in general than for CGI, because in CGI you can just go with the flow.
Yeah, and you can change things and stuff. You're so much more limited, especially it's so much harder when it comes to like camera angles. You can't change the camera angle after filming something. You can just re-render something with a different camera angle though.
Exactly.
You know what is really, for me, when I think about bad CGI, is really one of the most difficult things. It's animation. Because look at a movie like my favorite example, I know we had a discussion about this already. My favorite movie with almost no CGI, see Baby Driver, where any scene where they were in a car was 100% practical.
Yeah, but I think when we talked about that back in this, we didn't differentiate between VFX and CGI, because I said like they use so many things that weren't practical, right? But they probably didn't use that much CGI, I would think. They probably use many visual effects, but probably not CGI that much, right?
I mean, visual effects as in like
video manipulation effects, like maybe tracking something in the scene or doing some green screen removal stuff, stuff like that.
I still, from what I've seen in behind the scenes footage, I still think they use almost none of that.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean almost none of that? Like, there was like one scene where there was a car being pulled across with some thing, and they obviously had to remove the thing and post it, pulled it, right? Stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, okay, maybe some of that, but sometimes I think most of the time I think they work with like good camera angles, so you don't have anything else in thing. Honestly, in all of the behind the footage I saw, because that is my favorite movie, I've seen a lot. I don't think I've seen a single green screen. The color green at all. They
really did a good job in that. But then again,
apart from how they did it, the movement is really what is my important thing, because you would have never been able to do it with a non-practical setup. See the characters move in the car like that. And the whole background and everything fitting so well. That's the thing you just can't do with CGI.
Yeah, it's very hard for people to have do good in car scenes that are filmed on a green screen, right? To have them look realistic. Sometimes people just sit there and just move the wheel left and right sometimes a little bit, and just looks really weird. Yeah. Because people wouldn't drive like that. So I guess in Baby Driver they just went all in, right?
Yeah, they probably did. I mean, it's Edgar Wright. He goes all in.
Then if you think about it, Baby Driver wasn't really a movie that would have needed any CGI for anything, right? There were no supernatural things, stuff that didn't exist in real life. You can do explosions practically, or maybe enhance them in post, something like that. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they really
talked about was the beginning scene.
The beginning scene.
You remember the graffitis?
Yeah, that looked like kind of wheeling.
1 minute 40-second shot where he walked across the street and. Like, he walked one way and there was like graffitis on one, and he walked back and there were new graffitis.
Yeah.
That's one I'm still unsure of if they actually like sprayed over it, or like not necessarily sprayed, but like put another fake wall in front of it or something.
They could have done that, but yeah, maybe they did actually, but it looked weird, didn't it? At some point I was like, this kind of looks weird, doesn't it?
I don't remember it looking weird once.
Okay. Maybe I'm mixing this up.
I just didn't look at it right. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, Baby Driver isn't a movie where you would need any visual effects or like any CGI, so it definitely makes sense. Well, that's pretty much what we talked about, right? If you don't need it and it's practical, like it's efficient to do it just practical, why not do it practical, right? That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people use. I mean, your point was pretty good about like, if it's like really hard to do practically, but possible, but really hard.
Yeah.
Why do it? I think sometimes it can still give you a little bit of like character. I mean, depending on
for sure.
It's just background. It can still give you something that CGI can't. So like, just the accuracy, CGI, right?
But like, try to use it. The whole principle of like use as much as you need, but as little as you can.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's actually a good way to end the section, isn't it?
I think that is. So
Yeah.
I removed CGI from our spinning wheel, and we only got 3 topics left. Let's spin it to win it.
Let's spin it to win it. Spin the wheel. What's it gonna be?
All right, I've been looking forward to this.
Okay, what is it?
Best game of a given genre.
Best game of a given genre. So we have. So we should probably just read the genres first to let anybody
yes.
know what kind of games we're talking about.
I can do another spinning wheel for the genres.
Let's just go top to bottom here.
Yes.
So the first genre we have here is shooter. The next one is platformer, or like I guess jump and run in a sense. Then RPGs / adventures. So kind of the same category here. Then puzzle games and racing games.
Yes.
So do you want to start with the shooters, or should I start?
You start. I'm curious to see what you have to say.
So here's the thing: are we talking about shooters in a all you need to do is shoot kind of sense, or in a multiplayer shooter or single player shooter? Like I would like to have like some differentiation there.
I would actually say single player, definitely single player, because multiplayer changes too much. If you have a single player shooter, it's a single player shooter. It's a done game usually.
Okay.
So,
but we could probably also give a multiplayer pick just for the lots.
I mean, we could, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with my single player shooter pick. I think you kind of saw that coming, but I'm gonna have to pick Halo 2.
Yes, I did.
you did see that coming, yeah.
But that's Bioshock.
But that's what I ask: a multiplayer or a single player, because a multiplayer I would have picked something else for sure. The reason why I'm picking Halo 2 is first of all, Halo is a pretty well-known franchise, and nowadays it's actually very easy to obtain. It's like on the MCC, on PC, on an Xbox. So if you have a PC on Xbox, you can just download it and play it. The reason why I picked Halo 2 in particular is because Halo 1 was kind of like industry changing in a way, but it was also very rough. I mean, you and I played the first 2 games together, and you said yourself that you didn't really feel like the first Halo game was doing it for you, but then you were really in it when we came to Halo 2, right? Like, because it was just so much more polished, so much better. The story was better, way deeper gameplay and gunplay, much better world building, like way better. The graphics were better than Halo 1. Like it's just a straight up a good campaign, I would say. Like nowadays, when you think about single player shooter campaigns, it's more like, oh, you just run from point A to point B, shoot some guys, cutscene time, shoot some guys, objective, go with your SWAT there, shoot some guys. And in Halo, everything is way more old school, but also way more cinematic and scaled than in other games, right? If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So first of all, shooting is way old school. So you're having so shooting is very very how would you say it? Stripped down compared to modern games. There's like no ADS, no aiming downside. Shooting is actually just looking at something and shooting. There's like no recoil and stuff. It's super simple. You can only carry 2 weapons at once. But what it's lacking in complexity when it comes to just the shooting itself, it gets back in strategy and weapon choice and stuff, because enemies have different shield types, so you need to be aware of picking certain guns for certain scenarios, but you can only pick up the guns that the enemies drop, or sometimes you find them in the battlefield. So yeah, there's like just a very good sandbox and dynamic in the game, if you know what I mean. That you can have fun with. Like if you're a plasma guy, you just run around with a plasma pistol, plasma sword, like you can do it, right? There's nobody telling you can't do it, but there's definitely better strategies that you can figure out if you just practice the game, if you get used to the mechanics and stuff. I think that makes it very different to like modern shooters, because there it's like you pick any gun and you just click on the head and you'll be dead. Like it doesn't really matter. Like this SMG isn't much different to this SMG except for like small differences. Whereas in Halo, weapons can be drastically different, like very different. You of course have your standard guns where you just shoot your SMG and an enemy dies, but you also have like weapons that have needles that do no damage if you hit them, like if you hit 1 at a time, but if you manage to hit 7 in a row, the enemy just explodes. But the projectile is super slow, but it has like a little bit of aiming, so it can curve around corners to your enemy. It's like very bizarre sometimes, but I think that's what makes it so interesting, what makes it like so different to other shooters, right? And I think that's probably the main reason why I think people should give it a try at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Does it sound like a
It sounds like
a good deal?
Like a good... I mean, I've played it already. I don't know what you're trying to sell me here. But...
I mean, yeah, but like, it just seems great. And then like the world building is great. There are like different species and stuff, and everything is just so well written compared to Halo 1 in particular. So I think Halo 2 is probably like the best game to go for it. When you want to play a Halo game, yeah. I think I said all I need to say. Like Halo 2, go for it.
Very good point.
Thanks. Now it's your turn.
Yes, and I'm honestly having the hardest time.
You do.
Getting
because you wanted to pick Halo 2. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, now I don't know what to pick. Oh no. I did enjoy Halo 2. It's still, I mean, not to say it's not my cup of tea. It's like not my preferred drink. Let's say.
Oh yeah.
It's a good ass cup of tea. But I'm just not a tea person.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of shooters that I really love. First of all is of course Doom Eternal, which I'm still playing right now, pretty much exactly 1 year after release. Doom 2016 has its own things. Half-Life is just amazing. Half-Life 2 sucks ass. Let's just say that real quick. Then there's so much other things. But in the end, I do think I will go with Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead 2. You know what? That's a cool pick.
Because while Doom is amazing and Doom is great. Half-Life has such a great like level design, stories and everything. But Left 4 Dead 2 doesn't like it doesn't bore. And I mean not to say that Half-Life or Doom are boring, but like Left 4 Dead 2 just does so much right. And it has such a great catharsis, like a great game feel. It has advanced strategies, it has you getting better, it has still the thing where you're not overwhelmed. Half-Life can bore you sometimes. Half-Life can be stupidly difficult, like have stupid points in it that make it unnecessarily difficult. Doom doesn't necessarily have that, but Doom is extremely stressful, and Doom is definitely not for everyone, as it's like so much multitasking based, so fast, so everything. And I think Left 4 Dead 2 for me strikes the best balance of all of those things from like a single player or like co-op game that isn't like versus multiplayer. So I do think Left 4 Dead is really a game that everyone can play, everyone can enjoy, and yeah, it's just a great game.
Yeah, and also compared to like other shooters, you're not just shooting at enemies, like you're being chased by zombies. That makes it very distinct.
Exactly, you have different zombie types. It's kind of, I mean, you know, Doom would have that going for it as well. Half-Life actually as well. Okay, let's just say one thing. Shooters where you only fight against like guys with guns.
Yeah. I don't know if they suck, technically.
I can't think of like, you know, none of the games would be like, oh yeah, that's a great shooter. You fight just against guys with guns.
Yeah, I can think of one on top of my head. I played some back in the days, like Medal of Honor, of course, like Call of Duties, but usually those are more like multiplayer games than anything.
I mean, the first Call of Duties were really good. That is true, though. Like, 1 and 2 were really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I think Left 4 Dead is just, it's just a fun time, right? Like, there's just nothing you can really criticize about that game. Like you said, most people can just play it, right?
Exactly.
Like they just pick it up, they play it, and they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good fun, right? Even if you're not a shooter fan, like just shooting in video games in general, there's still the appeal of survival in there.
Exactly.
Because you
don't need those twitch reflexes and everything that you need for like a game like Doom, for example, where you have to like fling around and multitask all your things. You have to do some multitasking, you have to do some aiming.
Yeah. For the most part, it's more like
it's casual.
Yeah, it's very casual, absolutely. And also you can play it with 4-player co-op, which is also pretty great. Most shooters you can only play by yourself or like 2 people max.
It's especially a great game to get people into shooters because
I mean,
take some person that doesn't play shooters usually and try to give him a game, like take your girlfriend that doesn't play games and say, hey, play some Doom Eternal. She's gonna fucking cry after like 15 minutes.
It's just too complex. But like, it's just too complex to learn.
Exactly. But go like, hey, let's play Left 4 Dead together. I can carry you. It's no problem. Easy difficulty.
Yeah, and also, but if you're like more people than just 4 people, you can also play like versus. One team is like the zombies, the other team is like...
Exactly, that's also a big thing. Why I didn't choose Doom, because Doom is great, and Doom has a lot of content, really a lot of content, but it ends. Left 4 Dead 2 doesn't. Left 4 Dead 2 has workshop content.
Not just that, like the game has so much replayability potential.
It has so much replayability for itself, but then it never stops.
Yeah.
Like as soon as the game has community content, it's endless. And that's always a great pick.
Oh, definitely, for sure. All right, so next up, we got the platformer category.
Yes.
The thing is, I currently don't have a platformer in mind. I need to think about it still. So maybe you want to go first there?
I actually had to think about it as well.
Shit, okay. Maybe you should do a different category then first.
Let's do a different one first. It's easier, yeah.
All right. You want to go for which one? The next one, just RPG Adventure?
RPG Adventure, yeah, sure.
So here's the thing, right? I'm not a big RPG fan. I think most people that know me know that. But I'm also not a person that's like, RPGs suck because I don't like them, right? But what I do like are action adventures. So I'm not sure if
RPG can be like so many things. I mean, Zelda is an RPG, right?
It is. That's what I'm always saying. But people are always like, no, it's not. It's an action adventure. So this is where I'm drawing the line here and say that I'm more like into the action adventure kind of games, right? But when it comes to action adventures, I feel like there's like one series that I've kind of had so many entries and reboots at this point that it's like, Jesus Christ, what are you even doing? I'm gonna pick Tomb Raider. Okay, Tomb Raider. There we go. The reason why I picked Tomb Raider, I'm saying the Tomb Raider for the PlayStation once, maybe Tomb Raider 2 or 3, but I guess anyone would be here. Like, there's no big difference between them all. The reason why I would say Tomb Raider is a game you should check out, not because it's the best game ever, because it's not. It's very flawed. And it's also very old and janky. But I think that this kind of jank is what makes it so distinct. Because Tomb Raider 1 and 2 and 3, in particular, like the first couple of games, they are super slow, super heavy to control, super dark, atmospheric. Like what they're lacking in gameplay department, it kind of makes it up in the atmosphere department and just the world building, right? Yeah. The way you control Lara is just you feel like you're actually controlling a human being because she's just so heavy, right? You can't just do 360 no scopes in midair, right? Because that's not realistic. You have to plan every step. Like you just do one wrong step and you fall down and you die. So you have to hold the button to constantly grab on stuff. Otherwise you're gonna fall. Every movement you do is slow and precise. It just is like a different feeling than the modern games. You know what I mean? Like in the modern Tomb Raiders, you just jump towards the ledge and everything is done automatically. She does the timing, the jumping, the grabbing, the pulling up. In Tomb Raider 1, every of those steps you have to do manually. And I think that makes it so beautiful to experience. Because for once, you're not just this over-human being that's just so good in what it does. The character is really only as good as you are, which in Tomb Raider is most of the time very bad. if you know what I mean. Like, you've been with me. You streamed with me the game. You saw how slow it was.
Yeah. It is agonizingly slow.
Agonizing.
But like it's clunky. It's really clunky.
Yeah,
that's the better way to describe it.
Yeah, clunky is probably the best way to describe it. But I think that's the kind of thing that makes it so interesting. Also, like the game is super dark. There's like barely ever any music. Most of the sounds are just atmospheric. Like your like enemies making steps, right? Like your wolf maybe howling in the background, or some cave sounds, some wind, maybe water in the distance, something like that, right? And very occasionally there's like those kind of the kind of driplets of music, but they can get so intense that it's like, holy shit, there's music, something's happening, help me, a T-Rex is chasing me. So it's like it just makes you shiver, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I do.
And I think for that reason, Tomb Raider is just such a great game to experience. There we go. Tomb Raider.
That's very well put. Tomb Raider, nice. So I'm not going to be as unpredictable with my first thing. I think the first thing you didn't see coming, right? My shooter.
That's true. I didn't see that coming.
But maybe you can see my adventure game or RPG coming.
Is it gonna be Breath of the Wild?
Oh, that's interesting. No, it's actually not gonna be Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
it's gonna be Dark Souls.
Oh, it's gonna be Dark Souls. Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be Dark Souls.
I mean, yeah.
And specifically Dark Souls 1, because I had to think a lot about if I wanted to pick Dark Souls 1 or 3. And I can only go with Dark Souls 1, because while Dark Souls 3 is definitely the more polished experience in pretty much every way, I think there's nothing that like Dark Souls 1 does, like gameplay-wise, does better than Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 1, and I know people like talk about it a lot, but it is true, has such an amazing world design. Not just in a way that, the world is designed nice, the levels are designed nice, but also like the progression and the way you progress. When I think about Dark Souls, I think about running through places. Like, speaking about it as an RPG, not only about like a great fighting game, but also about an RPG, about role-playing as someone. I think about running through places, running through this undead burg, running through, the garden, the Darkroot Garden and everything.
Yeah.
When I played Dark Souls 3, the places are great, and the places are designed so nicely, but I don't necessarily think about them as, the places that I'm running through. I think about them more as a level. You know how sometimes when you play a video game and you become good at it, especially once you become good at a video game, you don't see the video game as itself anymore. Basically everything, especially like small details and everything, basically blends into one, as it has one texture. You've ever seen how a level looks before it's finished in like development, where it has placeholder textures and just like the roughest shapes? That's kind of what a game feels like to me sometimes after I've become good at it and played it a couple of times.
I definitely know what you mean there.
It just feels like the rough shapes, because I don't see it as like, for example, in Half-Life, I don't see it like, this is a conveyor belt that I can move on. I see it as like, this is a platform, the platform moves. This is how the gameplay mechanic works. And I think Dark Souls 1, and it's because the world design is so interconnected and everything, that's the thing it never really loses for me, even after having played it so many times, and the whole experience of it, because you can't replay it without paying attention to those things. It feels so unique and handcrafted. Whereas Dark Souls 3, while it still has great world design and everything, it just feels like it feels more level designed. And that's why Dark Souls 3, I mean, apart from that, Dark Souls 3 has great combat, even if it's not as polished as Dark Souls 3. Great combat, and just I'm still, for me, the biggest thing about a game is catharsis theory. So the theory that it doesn't matter what a game does or how it does it or whatever. It matters how the game feels.
It's weird, because I really don't agree to that at all. I mean, but that's a different.
I mean, it's everybody feels different, but that's why I love games like Dark Souls, Doom.
Yeah, you can definitely love it for that, 100%. Like I know absolutely what you mean. Like Dark Souls is a classic pick, and I do think with the points you made there. We talked about this before, I think, where we said like Portal 1 is probably the better experience, whereas Portal 2 is probably the better game, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas we would love to have both of it, but the perfect product doesn't exist in that regard. So if you want to go for the atmosphere, go for Portal 1. If you want to go for the good gameplay, go for Portal 2. And it's kind of like that with Dark Souls 2, right? If you want to play the better game, go with Dark Souls 3. If you want to play the better experience, go with Dark Souls 1, right?
Exactly. That is very well put. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that's experience versus good. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. Next one.
Yeah. Next up is puzzle games. So I have a question for that first. When we say puzzle games, do we mean like a game that's mainly about solving puzzles, or puzzle solving is part of the game?
I would say mainly about solving puzzles in a way that I wouldn't count a BioShock 1, even though it has those like pipe puzzles. I definitely wouldn't count that. I would say it doesn't have to be about puzzles 100%. It might be a game like, I mean, okay, that game is about, I was about to say The Witness, but The Witness is pretty much 100%
That's
about
what
puzzles.
was a perfect example for like a game that's only, oh my goodness, simple, what? No, wait, there was a sound here. What was that? Help, I'm confused.
I heard that sound.
You heard that? What happened?
I didn't
get a
Physical
notification.
location?
I don't think it was.
I don't know what happened.
My activity feed doesn't say anything, so I'm a little confused here.
Anyway.
All right. What was I going to say? Yeah, Witness is like a game that's very much about only solving puzzles. That's why I asked. Like,
I'd say puzzles, but like in a way that it doesn't have it doesn't need to be a puzzle in a it doesn't have to be the thing where like, oh, you have this thing, you sit there in a traditional sense, until you solve it. But like, so Portal is a puzzle game, but it's not always. It's not always traditional. Like, of course, when you sit in a chamber and you have to solve it, it's the typical puzzle. You have all the time in the world. You do your thing. You figure it out. But for example, like a part like the last chamber where you sit on the elevator and it like moves you and you have to think quick. That's also a puzzle still.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're like saying that it doesn't have to be a super puzzle game, actually for me it doesn't matter. I made my pick, but maybe just to clarify here. But so should I just go with my pick then?
Yes, please.
Okay, my pick here, you may have saw this coming, I don't know, is Human Resource Machine.
Oh, I did not at all see that coming.
You didn't at all see that coming?
No.
Actually, I just thought about that like 5 minutes ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, why didn't I think about that earlier? It's probably one of my favorite puzzle games. If you don't know Human Resource Machine, it's essentially a programming game where you have to solve puzzles with programming. Does that make sense? You're given a task in the game where it's like, the character on screen has to do a set thing, so you have to program certain actions and certain conditions for the character to solve this problem, right? And you're sometimes even controlling multiple characters at once that are doing different things, or have to do different things. So you gotta give them different, or like the same instructions that all lead to different results, and it can be super complex.
So wait, I have a quick question. Are you talking specifically about Human Resource Machine, or more about 7 billion humans, or both of them?
Oh yeah. No, you know what? I thought about 7 billion humans. I just confused the two. I
don't even remember you playing Human Resource Machine.
No, it's 7 billion humans. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. I played both of them, but 7 billion humans is the one I'm talking about. So I forget what I said. I mean 7 billion humans. But the point still stands. And the best thing about this game is that it lets you experience what programming is like without you having to learn programming. And I think that's something that more games should be able to do. I don't know if the term serious games is something that exists.
I have not heard of it, no.
Serious games are essentially games that do more than just entertainment. Where you actually learn something, where there's actually like a reasoning, or not a reasoning, like a bigger picture that helps you in your everyday life, maybe even, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe certain games, maybe even about suicide or something like that, just are genuinely... yeah, that can be a serious game, right? But like 7 billion humans is just so serious in the sense that you just learn how to program without having to learn how to program, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
it is so interesting. Yeah, like...
It is an interesting game.
And the game gets so complex so quick. If you just going through it casually, just completing all the missions, it's probably not that difficult and you get by fairly quick. But if you're going for maximum efficiency, so you have to write your programs in big quotation marks here, very efficient, and with the least amount of code and the least amount of time, that's when the game starts to become really freaking challenging, right? Yeah, so you have to sometimes think outside of the box and just really think like a programmer would go about these situations, right? It's just such an interesting game. Also, the art style is pretty cute. Like it just looks cute.
Oh, it's adorable.
I don't know if what the developer is called again. I forgot their name, but I think they also made Little Inferno. I think.
Yes, they did.
That's probably.
Wait, I'm gonna look it up. How they?
Yeah, I have look at that, please.
They are Tomorrow Corporation, of course.
Tomorrow Corporations, yeah.
Yes,
yeah, of
they
course.
also made Little Inferno, Human Resource Machine.
Yeah, and Little Inferno is probably the most known one of their games. So I thought, you know what?
I think Human Resource Machine is the most known one because it has
maybe
it's kind of the predecessor to
7 billion humans.
A lot more simplified. It's more like Human Resource, from what I've seen at least, Human Resource Machine is a bit more like playing around with an Arduino than actually writing a full program. If that makes any sense. Or like it's like Scratch compared to Human Resource Machine. compared to 7 billion humans.
Yeah, I think that's actually true. I haven't played Human Resource Machine that much because I couldn't get into it because it was just so different to like standard programming. That's why I'm also picking 7 billion because it's just so.
It has like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like
it has
it's
like
just
all the like count and move and whatever
copying stuff and.
Exactly. So it's a lot more about like the information itself.
Yeah. The logic.
Copy, inbox, add to. Exactly. More like logic programming, like a microcontroller, like an Arduino.
And also 7 billion humans is like probably the closest what you can get to multi-threaded programming, but in a video game.
Oh, definitely.
So that's also pretty cool. So yeah, like I said, 7 billion humans. Like if you haven't never heard of that, you should probably check it out and give it a go. Highly recommend. And also, you can play it on a touchscreen device as well. So.
Oh yeah, but it's not for. It's sadly it's not out for phones.
Oh
but if you
yeah.
want to get for phones, you can play Human Resource Machine, the predecessor. Yeah. It's not as complicated, not as close to programming, but it's out for Android and iOS, I believe.
Yeah, get the game. There you go. Your turn.
My pick is one that is very, very unlike a traditional puzzle game. I've thought about it, and first my pick was going to be, even though that probably doesn't necessarily count as a puzzle game, I thought about picking Unrailed, but then I was like, it's not puzzle enough.
Yeah, not quite.
Unrailed is more, for people that don't know, Unrailed is more like more like real-time strategy, but like also couch co-op. If you've played
also Endless Runner.
Also Endless Runner, yeah, it's a mix of many things. So if you played Overcooked, it's kind of like that, or like the main principle. So my puzzle game is actually Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Oh, what a good one. What a good one.
It does something that a lot of puzzle games don't. Not necessarily that a lot of puzzle games don't, but for me, it does something that a lot of video games don't, and works in a way that a lot of video games don't, because of the way that only one person is actually using a computer, and the way that the bomb works itself, it's more like a board game to me. And it's definitely a social game. So for people that don't know, one person is sitting on the computer and the other person has either like on a phone, tablet, or even printed out a manual. And the person in front of the computer has a bomb on, like a virtual bomb, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to defuse it with different modules. It has different modules that are basically like little games, like a Simon Says type of thing, but way more complicated than normal Simon Says. And they can only solve the bomb or like disarm the bomb with the help of the person having the manual physically. So it's not 100% a computer game. One person is sitting, if you do it right and you like print out the entire manual, which I did, you sit in front of pages of paper and take paper notes with a pen while the other person just puts the inputs. And that's the interesting thing. That game would work if you built the bomb in real life. That could 100% work. It only uses kind of like with CGI and virtual effects that we talked about earlier. It could work 100% practical, that game. It's just easier to do it on a computer, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the game can be super stressful.
Exactly, and that's what I love about it. It's the perfect game. I'm not the biggest puzzle fan, actually. With a game like Baba Is You, another great puzzle game people should check out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the principle of having a puzzle and being stuck at it. I like the principle of having skill be involved in a puzzle game as well. And the puzzle being some people might argue that makes it not necessarily a puzzle game, but not only the puzzle being able to solve something, but being able to solve something quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
And I love that being a part of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. As when you make mistakes or you're not fast enough with solving the puzzles on the bomb explodes. It's also about communication. So the puzzle is not only playing the game, the puzzle is also being able to communicate to another person. So technically, the other person becomes part of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, that's a very great way to put it.
So many deep layers and just so much fun to play. Also, the ways you can play it. You can play it on a laptop. You can play it on, I think most consoles have it nowadays.
I think so too, yeah.
Even Switch does.
You can play it in VR.
You can play it in VR, and with standalone VR, like a Oculus Quest 2 or Oculus Quest, you can just take it somewhere, and if you have the printed out version, you don't need anything else. You just sit down and play.
You can just use the phone, like if you don't have that.
Is it on phones? That's one thing.
No, I mean you can use the menu on your phone too.
Need to print exactly. You don't need to print it out. One person needs a phone. One person needs another device, PC or laptop or maybe even Switch. I hope it's not on Switch. Wait. I'm going to have to look that up because I don't want to say misinformation.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but...
Yeah, it's on Switch. Of course it's on Switch. So
yeah,
it's a great game. Everyone can have some fun with it. It's stressful. It's unique as a puzzle game because it's so much more than a puzzle game. It's a mix of so many different things, but it works so well. Also, if you have it on PC and on Steam, it has workshop support, which also Left 4 Dead, I already said that.
Endless fun.
Workshop support, endless fun with the game, especially with the creative ways people will build new modules into the game and keep the puzzle ever and ever expanding. Awesome game. Recommended to everyone.
Absolutely. Like, also, it's like kind of mixing speedruns and puzzle games in a way, right? Because you have to be quick about it. And like, if you're not quick, like you can't even complete the game, right? So it's like forced speedrunning in a puzzle game. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. The puzzle is it's not only usually puzzle games will be like, oh, you have to get good at puzzles and get better at puzzles because the puzzles will get harder. Here, not only the puzzles will get harder, you'll also have to be quicker at solving those puzzles.
Yeah, such a great game. We should play it again, man.
Oh, definitely. I found my manual recently, so like.
Yeah, you told me about that, I think. All right, that's the puzzle game category. Let's go over to racing games, and that's probably the category where I can't really say that much because I'm really not that big of a racing game fan. So maybe you want to go first.
Sure. I've thought about my favorite racing game a lot, and it's kind of difficult because racing games are so divided by what a racing game can be. A racing game can be a simulation. Like a racing game can be something very casual, like Mario Kart, that's focused on other people. It can also be something quite complicated complicated in a way for a puzzle game, like Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite racing game that I have played so far is Dirt Rally 2.0.
Dirt Rally, you know what? I thought about Dirt Rally 2 to pick that as a racing game. So I'm just glad you picked it, so I know what I'm going to pick next then.
Okay, so Dirt Rally 2.0 is a game that you mentioned you're not big a racing game guy, and I am neither. And that's why I picked Dirt Rally 2.0, because I never thought I would like that game. I never ever thought it. I got it in a humble monthly thing, basically for free. I didn't want it. I got it, and I was like, you don't. It was brand new at that point, almost like brand new, like a month old. So I was like, you don't always get to like test a basically new game out for free, right? Mm-hmm. So why not play it? And I never expected that game to pick me up as much as it did. So, I mean, I don't know if I need to explain the principle of racing games. Rally, I could explain really quick. It's basically racing on a really, really like just a nature track, basically. You don't have any asphalt, for the most part, don't have any asphalt or anything. You just race on like dirt, snow, sand, mud, stuff like that. It's a real thing. So most people may know it already. Yeah, probably. Which makes it... And you don't even race against other people live. It's all about time, which is a thing that really taught me a lot of not taught me, but like it got me used to playing for time because that's a thing I never liked. I wanted to I want to see who I'm racing with. But it's so much more fun, in my opinion, in that game at least, because you don't have someone being like, you don't have the thing, I'm behind, I'm ahead. You can see that in your time. But you just focus on yourself, and it's almost a Zen-like meditative experience to play that rally. Because you have to get used to control your car. You have to do tiny twitch movements. And one thing that not a lot of racing games move is you have to actually use analog triggers. You have to really precisely control how much gas you give.
Yeah, and how much you want to brake.
Exactly, how much you want to brake, how much you want to accelerate, because you don't want to accelerate too quickly, you don't want to accelerate too slow, you don't want to accelerate at all sometimes, or like accelerate only like 10%, 20% maybe to get around a corner better. It's so very well simulated, the experience of, I couldn't say like rally driving, but like the physics of driving and the physics of driving on a road like that. So that's the one thing, but the general thing of, like I said earlier, it's just Zen. You get into it and it picks you up and you just drive. It sounds stupid, but I mean, that's what you do in other racing games as well. But since you're alone on the track and it's really all about you, what you are doing and how you are managing to drive the car. And not only that, but also driving the car at all. Usually in racing games, it's about being the fastest. In that game, it's about finishing at all. It's not about, you know, having the S rank or anything. It's about getting through it. And that's the thing I really like about games. When games aren't about, I don't always want to have to be like, oh, I want to improve in this game. I just want to get through a game sometimes. And that difficulty is what I really appreciate in a game like that.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. Dirt is just a great game franchise. Like Dirt Rally, Dirt in general, like they're just great racing games. You can't argue with that. And they also, like, despite them being super realistic in some parts, they're also pretty casual, right?
They are. I mean, they're kind of complicated when it comes to a lot of points because, you know, the whole principle of like the times and how the times set up and how a whole like I don't even know what it's called, like a season, like a campaign works in Rally is kind of complicated. But generally, you just like press A bunch of times and you're in a race and you just race, you just drive, dude, just go. Yeah,
I think actually. Like I said, I wanted to pick Dirt Rally 2 because that's probably the racing game I played, like the traditional racing game I played the most, right? Also, you can play it in VR. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, right. It has VR support. I haven't done that yet. I don't want to throw up.
Oh yeah, you're not good with motion sickness anymore, are you?
No, I really lost it.
God damn it.
So quick interlude. While you explain your topic, I will be AFK for a second, but I will be right back, and I'm still listening to what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no problem. The thing is with racing games, like I said earlier, I didn't really know what to pick, and I'm still unsure. I said earlier I knew what I was gonna pick, but then again, I'm not sure at all because I have like conflicting games that are very different in different ways. I'm just gonna say both of them here, but I'm gonna choose one in a second. One of which is F-Zero for the SNES, and the other one is Trackmania. And I think what I'm going to choose is, this is a difficult one for me because I love both of those games and I feel like they're both very good in their own rights. But I think just because F-Zero is super old and it's very hard to play nowadays, I would have to go with Trackmania. No, you know what? I'm going to go with F-Zero because Trackmania is in a way very similar to Dirt Rally. Let's be honest. It's very similar to Dirt Rally in some regard. So I'm going to pick F-Zero then. So the thing about F-Zero for the SNES is this game is super old. Like very old. A different racing game that came out just during the same time frame as F-Zero for the SNES was Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart for the SNES. And if you ever played both of those games, you can just see what a different experience F-Zero provides to Mario Kart in that regards. Racing games back in the days were nothing but just a plane that you drive over with some sprites sticking out to make it look like a racing track. Yes. And F-Zero did absolutely the same. This is Mario Kart back in the days, but other than Mario Kart, F-Zero didn't control like complete dog shit. I don't know if you've ever played F-Zero for the SNES.
Yes, I have.
I think it's just the amount of control you have over your car or is it a car even? I guess you could.
It's like a.
I don't know what it is. It's a ship. Yeah, I guess it's a ship. The amount of control you have over your ship and the complex track designs at some point are just outstanding for SNES standards. I think that's probably what lifts it so high for me. Like if you talk about racing games during the SNES era, there's like I don't think there's any better game you can pick, honestly. I think F-Zero SNES is the best game during that era. Like, you're just going so fast. The controls are super tight. You have some advanced maneuverings, like leaning left and right. You can slide over ice. You can do jumps on ramps to maybe cut off some corners, but maybe risk dying in the process. You have a health system, so if you hit the road, like the edge of the road too much, you lose health and you gotta refill that sometime, and you might die in the process. It's more like an elimination race sometimes than just a standard racing game, right? And like the soundtrack, holy shit! Can we talk about F-Zero's soundtrack? That game has such a great music.
Is amazing.
It's amazing. True. Like holy shit! Like if there's one thing you can take away from F-Zero, that's a freaking fantastic soundtrack. Big Blue, Mute City, Silence. Those are all just tracks that people know because the game has such a good music, right?
F-Zero is amazing.
Like, F-Zero is amazing. Like I said, it's very old, so chances are very high that you're not going to be able to play it aside from emulation.
Isn't it on Switch Online?
Oh, it is on Switch Online. You're right. I forgot.
I'm not
also,
sure
people can play it. No, yeah, I think you're right. The one problem is that it has no multiplayer, which is probably its biggest downfall. I feel like a game like that kind of needs a multiplayer because it's almost a fundraiser, is it? But not really, because it doesn't have any like items and stuff. You wouldn't say so?
I wouldn't say. I would compare it. I mean, in that way as well. I mean, both games are kind of similar to it in a way, but I would also compare it kind of to, not that much to Dirt Rally than Trackmania, because other people can influence you more.
Yeah.
But generally, it's pretty straightforward in like being a racing game. It's more like just racing game, like a Need for Speed. Of course, Need for Speed has like the whole tuning and everything, but generally it's like get from A to B. You don't have items, you just drive.
Yeah, but I thought like from the complexity standpoint, like while F-Zero has some more or less deeper mechanics, like the health system and stuff, it's mostly very easy to control and very simple. Left, right, accelerate, brake. That's it. Mostly.
Honestly, but with the whole like you have to like if you press L and R, you have to like sight.
Yeah, the leaning thing where you like strafe and stuff.
Thing. So that alone makes it more complicated than games like Need for Speed.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. And then also there's like air control. You can bounce around with physics, which is also pretty strange for an SNES game. If you hit the wall too hard, you just bounce around the track like you're a freaking ping pong ball.
It's not that uncomplicated. I mean, it's not as complicated as Dirt Rally, but it's more than Need for Speed.
I think you're right there. Yeah, but I think that's still a great game to play, and like it looks dated, of course, but I think the art style that racing games had during the PlayStation 2 era is well better used in F-Zero, for example, than something like Mario Kart during like Super Mario Kart, right? Like F-Zero looks, of course, flat, but it's very easy to distinguish the track from off-road, and it's just very easy to process on your eyes, right? You know what the boundaries of the tracks are.
It's so simple.
It's so simple.
Unlike some of the later entries.
Yeah, and it gets freaking intense, doesn't it? Like if you're low on health and you need to still take over 2 enemies because of third place, you're like, holy shit, you can risk using a boost but going completely haywire, so maybe you're smacking into a wall and just die instantly. Or you could play it safe but risk not finishing first. Like it's stressful sometimes. I don't know how far you've played that game, but yeah, that's my pick.
I've played some rounds of it. I remember having a really fun playing it for like the best times on at Gamescom a couple of years ago.
Oh, interesting.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just a great game. I love it. Soft spot. I would say it's a kind of soft spot in my heart.
Definitely understandable. So we've reached our last point, the one that we had to skip earlier.
Platformer. Yeah, platformer.
Yeah,
you're right. So I have a platform by now, so I could go first if you want to.
Please.
Okay, so the reason why I asked before whether or not what counts as a puzzle game is because I wanted to pick that game first for a puzzle game. I was like, okay, maybe it doesn't really qualify as a puzzle game, but it definitely counts as a platformer. It is Oddworld Noon Tasty.
I was already surprised earlier when you didn't pick Oddworld for a puzzle game, which is
that's why I asked. But then I was like, you know what? 7 Billion Humans probably checks puzzle game way better than Oddworld. So I picked 7 Billion Humans over that then. The reason why I'm picking Oddworld Noon Tasty is mainly because the new Oddworld game is coming out in 2 weeks, and it's on my mind constantly. I can't get it out of here.
Yeah,
I'm possessed by Oddworld. Send help, please. It's not really like a puzzle game. That's why I didn't pick it first. But it's kind of also puzzle-y in a sense because there's lots of puzzle elements. But it's mainly a 2D platformer, or like 2.5D if you want to put it like that. It's a super slow game, kind of like Tomb Raider 2, very heavy to play. But it also makes it super believable in a sense. It's also a game that relies heavily on atmosphere and world building and stuff. So it's kind of weird that I pick games like that now, right? Because usually I'm the gameplay is king guy, but for some reason I have soft spots. But also the gameplay is great. Like you're playing like a I guess when I say Mudaka, nobody knows what it is, but it's like a species that is similar to a human being. And you're enslaved in a meat factory, and you have to break out because what they want to do is they decided to make you into their new top product. So you got to get out of there, or you're gonna get eaten. you're just gonna die. And now your quest is to stealth out of that thing and rescue as many friends of yours as you can. And it's just a very, very tricky and slow platform because it relies heavily around being out of sight of your enemies and being quiet and talking to your friends to take them with you. That's like one thing that this game did very well. It's like game speak. You have like certain things you can say, and people that are near you are gonna hear that. Not only your friends but also your enemies, and sometimes they react differently on that, and you can tell people to come with you, and you gotta bring them to those spots where you can save them. It's a very gritty game. Everything is super brutal. If you die, you're probably just gonna bust into tiny bits and get squished or completely shredded or just shot by a freaking shotgun or whatever. Like, it's brutal. But that makes it so interesting, right? It's a game that I played as a child, believe it or not, and I was never afraid of that game really because it was just so unhuman, unearthly, right? It's a different
ones, and I thought it was creepy as hell.
Yeah, I thought it was creepy too, and I wasn't afraid of it because I could distinguish it really well from real life because everything just looked so different, right? And it's just a great puzzle game too. Like, sometimes you got to really think about your next step because every step you can take could be your last in a sense. There are very different enemy types and AI types you have to readjust to. What else? You can use the environment to help you like hide in shadows or in Steam or something like that. You can take over your enemies. How would I forget about that? You have an ability where you can take over your enemies and use your enemies as a tool to complete a level, which is also super interesting. It's just a bizarre game. Like, it's just very strange, but it's also super atmospheric and super dark. So I would, if this sounds great to you should probably give it a go, honestly.
That's a very good.
I think
very good
that's.
I still
that's
haven't
it.
played it much.
Maybe you should play it at some point.
I should try it, but I don't know if it's my cup of tea. But I will definitely try it. I mean, that's what you got to do at least, right?
Yeah,
even
that's
if you don't
true.
like a game, don't say you don't like a game without having tried it.
Absolutely.
So my pick for a platformer is really unusual, and a game I'm not even sure if you know at all.
Oh,
I believe it's by Ubisoft, or published by Ubisoft at least. Yes, it's published by Ubisoft and made by Ubisoft Studio, and it's called Grow Up.
Oh, I know that. I know Grow Home, I think. Which is the first one?
Grow Home is the first one.
Oh, no, then no, Grow Up. Yeah, I played that. Not completely, but some of it.
So the sequel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
For those who don't know, Grow Up is the sequel to Grow Home, but it's one of those sequels where like it's better in every way. So like, if you have Grow Up, you don't really need to play Grow Home unless you really, really want to play more of it. Basically, you play this little robot named Bud, and you are on a planet that is like a completely full and accessible planet. It's not huge. It's not as big as a real planet, but you can completely move around it, and have the whole typical physics. So like kind of like Mario Galaxy, but like if Mario Galaxy had huge planets. And you're a little robot that has completely physics-based controls. You walk physically. I mean, you just press the stick forward to walk, of course, but you can slide down sides. You can stumble because the animations kind of mess up. And basically the whole principle of the game is you can climb by pressing the triggers on your controller and grabbing with your hands. So you can climb up everything. But a little bit more complicated than the technique like Breath of the Wild, because you have to like climb yourself, move your hands and everything. And the thing is, in the game, you have to collect a certain number of crystals to get your like spaceship running again. And also you have the ability to drop plant seeds that grow into huge plants, and you unlock different type of plant seeds. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but for example, you can drop a mushroom. There's a mushroom plant seed you can drop, and then you drop it, and a huge mushroom grows, like 3 times the size, as big as a tree. Exactly. And if you then climb on top of the mushroom and jump, it bounces you up in the air.
Yeah.
And there's cacti, for example, that are just basically normal things to stand on, but you can place a cactus on top of another cactus, and you can build giant towers up into the stratosphere with that. and there are floating islands all over the world. And basically, the whole purpose of the point of the game is to explore all of the different islands, unlock different seeds, maybe even build like huge structures of like plants yourself, because you can like stack them. And you unlock more things as you go on. You unlock a glider feature, you unlock a jetpack with limited charge, and you can also combine those two to boost the glider. And in the end game, you even unlock like unlimited boosting, which is like, I mean, not in the end game, after 100%ing it. I mean, maybe a little spoiler, but something to look forward to. And it's like one of the most wholesome games I've ever played. You just play it, you have a fun time, and I've replayed it, I think, 3 times so far, because it never really gets boring. It's like it's a comfort game, kind of. It's just calm. You just do your thing. You can't really die me. You can't kind of like die, quote unquote. You can like fall down again and then like break, but then you just respawn and there's no penalty for it. Because that's the kind of game it is. It's just a game that's friendly and that wants you to have fun.
You know, it's very bizarre. I completely forgot about that game until you mentioned it right now. Like, I haven't seen anything of that game in years. I think Elvie played that.
I forgot that game for like a year as well.
Yeah, Elvie played that when I was with her. Quite a lot, actually, I think. It was pretty fun always to look at that, to watch that, but like it just looked like a fun game. Like, I never played it myself, but I've seen a lot of it, and it just looked so fun, so chill. It's just a chill time, isn't it?
It is definitely.
It's also like, I don't think the playing area is even that big, is it? You can probably like get from one end to the other in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right?
I wouldn't say that in the beginning of the game. Maybe like towards the okay, maybe you can on the like bottom of the planet.
Yeah, on the ground. That's what I was gonna say.
Since all the floating islands that you have to go to extend in space, like extend into space, and you know the way a sphere works, the bigger the extent goes, the farther things are away.
Yeah, that's true.
It does take quite a while to complete. To like, I mean, you can complete it and 100% it. It doesn't take that much. I think I've played it twice and I got like 20 hours in it. So.
You know what's interesting?
First time was probably like 15. Yes, what?
I don't think there's like any game like it. Or like, and that's not no game I can think of right now that is very much like it, where there's just like this one area and you just get new abilities and stuff, which makes you. It's almost like, you know what it's almost like? Like those old Flash games, like Shopping Cart Hero and stuff, where you just get new stuff that makes you progress further and stuff.
God,
you know what I mean?
What you mean, yeah.
Yeah, but unlike those games, you don't have to restart constantly. You're just like progressing naturally, I guess. I think there's like what? Oh, you should. I should play too, man. I don't know. Think about it. That looked like a freaking chill ass game.
It is great.
It looks fantastic. All right, there we go. That's our picks for for our games, for good games and different genres. Now I think there's only like one category left. We're already over 2 hours. So if that's okay for you.
Yes. What category was it again?
The last category was equipment versus skill. What has more impact on quality?
Yes.
So, should I give you a reasoning why I picked this?
Yes, please tell me.
Okay. Everybody and their freaking mother is using the SM7B, and it pisses me off.
That's a thing I thought of. That's the first thing I thought about when you mentioned it.
Like, honestly, it just pisses me off how many people buy this microphone because they think it's what they need in order to have good quality on their streams or on, like, they just use this for work. They just buy this to have a good microphone for work, for doing conferences and stuff. Like, what is wrong?
I mean, I would say there's not many people that do that, because even if you don't know a lot about microphones, I think you can get a decent quality for work for less than 400 euros.
Yeah, but the thing is, exactly, like, the microphone is already $400. Then you need like an interface for like $50 to $100. Then you probably also need a cloud lifter, because that microphone is very unsensitive. So you need like an external, what do you call it, amplifier, right? It's like, all the guys at Rocket Beans that work from home now have this microphone, and I really don't understand why. Because they really don't sound that much better than with their previous microphones. They're like, okay, what are you doing? I mean, there are so many better ways to get a better result than just to buy the more expensive equipment. maybe even if ways are way more effective than actually buying more expensive equipment. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean, and I think it's a general consensus to say. I think there's no real discussion about saying it's more important. Like, it's more important to be skilled in something. Not only microphones. I mean, microphones is, skilled in microphone. Like, have knowledge about microphones and how to set them up.
Yeah.
Or like skill with a camera, for example, than to have a good camera, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's where my argument comes in, and this is not only a counter argument. This is a legitimate point of mine. Sometimes it's not about the thing you can reach with your skill, but it's about raising the base level. So let's say I am, for example, I don't know much about rocket beans, but like, let's say they are just like, they do their thing and they do their, but not every one of them is like a technical person. Not all of them edit their videos, probably. Some of them are just like the reporter side, basically, the host, right? The entertainer. Just like Robert Downey Jr. probably doesn't know shit about how to use a camera. Yeah. He's just a guy in front of it. So if you are in that position and you don't want to learn anything about it, or like learn the principles of how to set up a microphone, how to use an external software to like use a equalizer and whatever, then of course, without that skill, you can't get to the same level of a microphone, like of someone that has that skill, or with a good camera. If you don't have skill, you can't make photos as good as someone that has immense skill, even if that person only has like a phone. But sometimes, exactly, it's not about being as good as that person who has a lot of skill. Mm-hmm. It's comparing, like the classic thing of don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to your former self. Yeah. And if you don't want to raise your skill, if you don't want that, and you take a $100 microphone and an SM7B, the SM7B will be better. Of course, with that $100 microphone, you can definitely get better results. If
what I would argue against that I would say that it's not the case at all. Because the thing is, with equipment like the SM7B, that it's a super prosumer product. It has very, very crazy limitations that you need to be able to work around. And most people that I see using this microphone have no idea what they have in front of them. A very unsensitive dynamic microphone that needs a lot of power in order to be loud enough, that is very, very, very characteristic, like very, very tightly characteristic. So you need to be right in front of it, very close, and super tightly in front of it. Right? You cannot lean left and right because you're gonna get more sound. And the thing is, I generally agree with your statement that you said like you just want to get better audio, but don't just buy a product because people use it, because most of the time those people know what they're doing and you do not. It's like, you know what I mean? That's kind of the reason why people bought the Blue Yeti so much, but for different, like in a different way, if you know what I mean. Like, people bought the Blue Yeti because it was everywhere. But the Blue Yeti was a waste of money because it's the thing that it does that makes it so expensive, you don't use because you don't even know what those things are, right? All the characteristics, like wall characteristic, A stereo, whatever, you don't use it. So you're just wasting your money on like $80 or something that you could have like saved by just getting a normal microphone that might have even sounded better than the Yeti. You know what I mean? So
that's a good point.
That is, I think that's a very good point. Like if you just think about good microphones, a microphone that people used to recommend was like the Rode Podcaster, I think, or the Rode NT1A. That was like, that used to be the go-to microphone for people that wanted to get good, quick audio. First of all, it's a lot cheaper than the SM7B, right?
Yes,
it's like $200, I think. Yeah,
no, it's even less. It's about the price of a Blue Yeti, actually.
Yeah, it's very cheap, but it's actually all you need, and it even has arguably the better sound if you don't know what you're doing. First of all, it's a condenser. It has a wider pickup pattern. It's way more sensitive, so you don't need to be positioned super well and stuff, right?
It's Procaster, by the way.
The Procaster, yeah. I mean, that's a dynamic one, but I'm just talking about the NT1A right here, but it doesn't matter. Like, both of them. Both of them are just, technically speaking, better for unexperienced people, right?
Yes.
I think you would agree with that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the amount of people that I've seen that use a SM7B, and they're just so insanely quiet because the equipment they bought doesn't have enough amplification for that microphone, because it's just so quiet, right? That's why most of the people that use that microphone use a cloud lifter to use in between your interface and your microphone to boost the gain, like right before it hits the interface, because your interface just doesn't have enough power for it. It's like, I mean, yeah, like you should have just gotten the radio at this point, honestly. And also like cameras, right? Like my camera was, for nowadays standards, very cheap and very basic, but I think I can get better results than some people with like Blackmagic pocket cameras that they just set up, because you just got to work with what you have, with the lighting and stuff. And you know, sometimes it's just better that instead of asking people what microphone should I get, it's maybe the better question, or maybe what equipment should I get, is the question, what makes this kind of equipment good for me? You know what I mean? Because only when people can answer you this question, you can be sure to get the product that you require, not the product that you might want.
I think I know what you mean. It's kind of difficultly put to understand, but
yeah, it's like
I think
maybe
I know
I didn't
what you mean. But I mean, yeah, the microphone is a really good example of that. But sometimes, I mean, I do still understand those people, and the main principle of being like, it's a thing that I've come to understand, not necessarily share, but understand more and more as time goes on. Especially since, you know, I've gotten older. I mean, I'm 20 now, so especially like a couple of years ago, I was, you know, I mean, I'm still a student, but a couple of years ago, I was a student with no money. So I was like, yeah, you know, you try to get the most bang out of your buck in any way that you can. You optimize, basically, yeah, you optimize the money spent to a insane degree, because you don't have a lot of money and you want to, you know, get the most of what if you can. But I've really come to more and more understand, like I said, still not really follow, but understand the principle of many people that are like, I don't want to deal with that much, and I don't want to deal with it even much to the degree where I inform myself much, not even just like learn how to set up a microphone, but even just inform themselves a lot about microphones. They don't want to, you know, watch that, even if it's just like 30 minutes of YouTube video watching, being like, oh, what is the best microphone for me or whatever. I mean, 30 minutes maybe not, but like, you need to, how much will you need to spend to like figure out what is the best? Like maybe 2 hours to compare all the common microphones. They don't want to spend those 2 hours. Those 2 hours are oftentimes worth more than some people, especially, I mean, $400 for a microphone like the SM7B is a big example. So obviously not everyone's going to buy that, but like people that have money and that use it for work, like Rocket Beans, for example, for those people, it's just like more worth the money, their time that they would spend is worth more than the money that they would save. Yeah,
I think that's a good argument, but then again, like, if you make the wrong purchase, you might even harm yourself with that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like I said, the SM7B, if you don't use that thing correctly, it's gonna sound worse than, for example, the NT1A or like the Rode Podcaster, right? Or the Procaster.
And you know what some of those people are gonna do then? They're going to figure out, oh, wait, this doesn't work properly. And they're going to do one of two things. Either they're going to be like, oh, okay, so I got to fix it. Yeah. And I got to do it better. Like, I got to fix it up. No, sorry. They're either going to be, I got to fix it, or they're going to be, they're not even going to notice it, or they're just not going to care. And if they're going to be, I got to fix it, then there's another 50-50, or not 50-50 chance, but like 2 chances. Either they will, you know, get to know the product they bought, but if they just buy it without informing themselves, it's unlikely that they will learn afterwards. So what they'll do is they'll just get a different microphone that works simpler. They might buy an SM7B and then switch over to a Rode Procaster.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like it's very, like some of those things can be very complex, but it's like kind of the same argument that people back in the days brought up, like, oh yeah, just get an NVIDIA graphics card and you'll be set, right? But like no argument towards why. If you'd ask them like, why would I get an NVIDIA graphics card like this one per se, maybe the 1080 for example, it's like, why that? Like, is that good for me? Like, can you say anything else you can read? Say, no, it's just like NVIDIA, like it's a good graphics card, like everybody uses it. Like it's like but it's super expensive and you're probably not gonna need that much power, and it's like you know what I mean, right?
An internship at an internship.
Internship.
I was once doing an internship at an IT company, and we went out to this, like, it was a dentist office, but like a really professional, not just a small time one, a really big one, right?
Yeah.
Where they did like really complicated special surgery and stuff like that. And so we did something with one of their PCs. Anyway, we checked the PC of like the personal PC of one of the, not personal, but like a specialized PC for one of the doctors that was running some kind of dentistry equipment. And it wasn't really, it didn't need to be powerful, right? It was specialized equipment, but it wasn't like hardcore powerful equipment. And that PC had, keep in mind, this was like 2014. That thing had like a 32 core Xeon processor in it.
What?
Which at the time was like a high-end server CPU.
Yeah, holy shit.
And it cost like so fucking much. And it had shit single core performance. It was like 1.2 gigahertz per core.
Oh my goodness.
But it had 32 cores and like 64 threads. In 2014, when multi-core was really not as popular as Ryzen made it.
Especially not as necessary, right?
Exactly. And my boss, basically, that I was with there, you know, on the thing, asked the like dentist boss dude, like, okay, why did you like choose this? This is like a server grade CPU. And he was like, I don't know, it was expensive, so like it must have been good. I was like, oh my god, you just bought. Not only did he absolutely pay way too much, he didn't even get what he needed, because you can't tell me he needed, like, he could have profited way more from just better single core performance. Who wants 1.2? The thing wasn't that fast.
Yeah.
Because of course, how is it going to be that fast with 1.2 gigahertz?
Especially when using like Office programs that are mostly single core anyways.
Exactly. It's my god.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, another good example would be Linus just buying a freaking 8K red camera and still not using it properly till this day because all their green screen work looks like dog shit.
Do they even record the green screen with the 8K red?
Honestly, I don't know, but I feel like the amount of products that Linus buys just for the lols, it's almost like a meme at this point.
How much of that does he actually buy?
Honestly, I don't know.
He paid for the red camera, but then again, how much of the cost for the red camera did he get back in from the videos he made about the red camera?
That's a good point, but I think that's a good example. Like, Linus isn't really very experienced when it comes to media. You know, he's good with PC gaming and technology, but not really with media at all. That's why he has people that work for him that are really good with that. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that some people told him at his at MG, they were like, you probably shouldn't get the red camera. Like, that's no point. He's like, no, it is 8K. 8K is the new standard. Let's get this camera. I can imagine Linus being like that.
I actually remember. Honestly, I think it's more like the other way around. I remember I forgot what his name was. One of the main like cinematography dudes there being like, oh yeah, that's so cool. And then we can shoot like the best stock footage and everything.
Yeah, but like the thing is, they also had upgraded their PCs with like quadros and those really weird video editing cards in their machines to even make the files properly like processable, right? It's like,
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you've seen the recent videos, but like I think his last video or like a couple of days ago was upgrading his entire office to like fiber instead of normal CAT cables, because now he has 100 gigabits instead of 10 gigabits.
Yeah, it is
also,
so strange.
He just upgraded to 10 gigabits like a year ago.
Yeah, I think really the most important thing to take away from this is that if you're looking into like amping up your production in any way, shape, or form, it's probably almost always better to just take those 2 hours to get a brief understanding of what you're looking for, instead of just buying whatever random person on the internet is recommending because of their needs, right?
You know what? That's a good point. Buy what you're looking for, not what you find. So just because you find, like, if you want a camera, right?
Yeah.
Just because you see an 8K camera online doesn't mean buy an 8K camera. Buy what you need. Buy what you want, not what you find.
Yeah, I guess what you want also doesn't make the most sense because, you might want an 8K camera.
I mean, but then again, honestly, if you just want an 8K camera, then yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, but like I said, it's like...
then even if you don't need it, sometimes you just want stuff. And if you want stuff, I mean, buy it, right? I don't need... I don't know. I don't need a second monitor, but I want it, so I bought it. But I bought it because I wanted it, not because I saw that it was available.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But like, no, I think you're right. I think a good example for like stuff like that in general is like if you ask a person about a certain product, you should probably not ask, is that thing good? Because most certainly it is good, but it might not be fitting for you. Like you should probably ask like, does this product make sense for me, right? Like if you see a GTX 3080 or 3090, you shouldn't be asking like, is that a good product? Because your answer is yes, it's a very powerful graphics card. Ask like, should I get that graphics card? Does it make sense for me to get it? Then the people are gonna ask you questions back like, what resolution are you playing at? What games are you playing at? Do you plan on upgrading your rig in the future? Right? Stuff like that. What is your power supply in your PC? Like the important questions.
So much depth there. But then again, there's the people in the world that are like, is this good? Okay, I'll take it. My girlfriend's father is actually kind of like that. I was I told you how I like completely rewired his IT at his home.
Yeah.
And basically he had so to explain it to everyone, he moved into a newly built house, right? And he had one of the the perks of that newly built house was that there's Ethernet through the entire house, from a big splitter in the basement up to the entire house. So the thing was, he couldn't put his router in the basement because weird whatever problems, but he couldn't put his router in the basement. So he couldn't route internet to all the ports in the house. So they were just being unused. But the house is really big. Mm-hmm. So the router didn't really work alone. So what did he do? He bought I'm not kidding you, he bought 5 Wi-Fi extenders.
Oh Jesus!
And put them all over the house to try to kind of save the signal, but it's a really massively built house, so barely anything reached the top levels, and my girlfriend's internet was cutting out constantly.
Oh shit!
And he bought so many expensive Fritzbox extenders and Wi-Fi repeaters and whatever. I just got in there. I got him a switch for $20, some cables for $30 total. Mm-hmm. And pretty much that was it. $50. Also a cable channel, so it looked nicer for 10. So $60. Everything was fixed. And and it runs a million times better and faster.
That's what I'm saying. Just because people say you that to tell you that's the thing to do, right? That's a good thing, doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you.
Exactly. And you know what's the most scary part about it was after I noticed those problems, and I know a lot about IT, so I was like, hey, I can fix that. I informed myself, what can I do? What's the best I should do here? What kind of cable should I get? What kind of switch is good? And I went up to him and I was like, hey, so he wanted me to, he was like, I already talked about him to fix his IT. And I was like, so I chose this and I chose this, and I wanted to explain to him. So I chose this because this and this is why it all fit his thing well. And he didn't even really listen. He was just like, yeah, sure, buy that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I tried to explain to him why exactly I chose, and I was really careful because I wanted him to know that I picked out the best for him, and that I didn't just waste his money. And he didn't give a fuck. He was just like, yeah, sure, buy it. If you say it's good, buy it.
That's so insane. Yeah, it's some people are just like, nowadays when I buy something nowadays, I almost always take my time to figure out the kinks of what I need to know about the product before I get it. I spend multiple days looking for a proper TV for me to get, because I wanted it to be fitting for me, right? I wanted to have quick response times, low input latency, gaming modes, HDR, and that was pretty much it, right? Now I was looking for TVs like that, but not every TV had the things I needed. So I could have just bought a good TV that people said was a good TV, but it wouldn't have even made sense for a gaming TV, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably like the best example. Just look out for the things you need and ask specific questions. Or if you can't ask specific questions, let people that know something about the product ask you questions back for what you need, right?
I mean, you can put it in a much simpler way. We can just say, ask online, what's a good car? Oh, a Lamborghini. Oh, sure, yeah, I'll buy one of those.
Yeah, get one.
People say
get a Lamborghini.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't
buy it. I mean, if you want to, buy one if you want to, and if you have a lot of money.
I think the first time I actually discovered that, I guess not the first time, but like a recent example where I discovered that knowledge and skill is just worth so much nowadays, except for just like unlike equipment, right? Where you just buy it and then it's there. Like when I was skating with Lysander, we were taking some pictures of like us skating because we thought like, why not for Instagram or something like that. And he was trying to take images and he's like, I can't really get an image to look good. It's like I took one of my camera and he's like, oh my god, your phone camera is so much better. The pictures look so much better. It's like, no way, my camera is complete dog shit. Like it's just me knowing how to properly use a camera. And I took one of his phone. He's like, oh my god, this looks so great. It's like, yeah, because I know what the fuck I'm doing. Like that's the secret to it. Also like with your audio setup, right? Like your microphone sounds so much nicer now that you use all those plugins that just helped you to clean up your audio.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, right?
I actually just changed it today again to because I put out it took out too much bass. Some basic.
Honestly, the differences are now just minor, but just doing the general stuff like compressing, noise gating, equalizing.
I changed compressor quite a bit again.
It's less aggressive now, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It was kind of distracting earlier.
Yeah, that's why.
Maybe you should wrap this up. It's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Let's wrap this up. And this was the first episode of Radio-diculous. Hope you guys had fun.
Yes, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was two guys talking.
2.5 hours. Yeah, I guess I expected about this time, to be honest. Last time it was also like that, I think.
It was pretty much that time, yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to say, or are you just done?
Play the games we recommended, all of them.
Oh yeah, at least all of them. Get them all.
And
buy them.
Let's do this again. If you watch this, I mean, I don't know if anybody's watching live right now, but if you watch this in a replay, then let us know with a comment, and we'll have mad respect for you then.
Oh yeah, we will have mad respect. Absolutely.
I remember. I don't know if you remember. In the last time we did that,
Bay wrote a comment.
And I actually gifted him like a free game because I was like, oh, if you watch to this point, I'll give you a free game. But I don't have enough money to give everyone free games.
That is true. You shouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm just gonna do a shameless plug here. Maybe check out my other videos if you're finding this just at random. I do great videos nowadays.
Check out his Dark Souls streams.
Dark Souls streams, yeah, they're all up there on my Twitch channel. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say here. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week, same day, same time, right?
Yeah.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.